accordance with the requirements of the Constitution and all other applicable laws, and is designed to give each candidate a fair chance. Accordingly, the JSC has strictly followed the laid down procedures and has in the process invited and received variable public and stakeholder input. The Commission wishes to thank the public for responding to our call for public participation in this process. We also want to thank the over 30 stakeholders for their very productive input on the kind of Chief Justice we are seeking, which has greatly enriched this process. Stakeholders' input has also enhanced JSC's own perspective on the process, including the types of questions to include. We also thank all the 9 applicants for applying for this position, and we wish each one of them the best. The JSC has conducted this process in a transparent and open manner, and this has included the uploading of the candidates' bios and sample writings in the Commission's website. Similarly, these interviews will be conducted in public. The media is free to air them live, and the JSC will also be running all the interviews live on its social media pages. Because of the constitutional timelines and the significance of the office, we have had to proceed with these interviews even in these difficult times of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we have taken all the necessary precautions. This is the reason why, unlike in the past, these interviews are being done in the open, which permits sufficient social distance. We urge all Kenyans, and particularly those involved in this process here in this tent, for the next few weeks to adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines to help preserve health, avoid the disease, and save lives. Once again, thank you for the interest you have all shown in this process. And with those few remarks, I will now ask the Chief Registrar of Judiciary and the Secretary of JSC, Honorable Anna Madi, to escort the first candidate to the tent, and the candidate is Honorable Justice Chitembwe. Thank you. Your Honor, Honorable Said Juma Chitembwe, Judge, welcome to this interview, and thank you for being here. Honorable Judge, this will be more of a conversation. I think that is enough now. Once again, Honorable Judge Chitembwe, welcome to this interview, and thank you for being here. And as I was saying earlier, Judge, this is a conversation, so please relax and answer questions as precisely as possible, Your Honor. The interview will be by the 9 commissioners, and it's now my pleasure to ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. And I'll start with myself. I'm Olive Mugeda, Commissioner, and sharing these interviews. And on my right.
My Lord, my name is Philomena Mwilo. I represent the Supreme Court on the Commission. I'm also the Deputy Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. You're welcome.
Good morning, Judge. I'm Patrick Ishohi, representing Public Service.
Good morning, my Lord. My name is David Majanja, Judge of the High Court, representing Kenya Judges and Magistrates Association as the male representative. Thank you.
Sorry. Good morning, my Lord. My name is Oluwande Evelyn. I'm a Chief Magistrate. I represent the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association as a female representative. You're welcome.
Good morning, my Lord. My name is Machari Njero. I'm representing the Law Society of Kenya.
Good morning, Judge. My name is Felix Koske. I represent the public.
Good morning, my Lord. My name is Mohammed Warsame. Welcome.
A very good morning, my Lord. Kehara Kariuki. I am the Attorney General, and I'm a member of this commission by virtue of my office.
Thank you, commissioners. Honorable Judge, just one more thing. If you're not sure of the question, or if it's not clear, you are free to ask the commissioners to clarify or to repeat the question. And I'll now kick off the interview, Honorable Judge, by asking you to introduce yourself briefly, just very briefly, and then we'll continue. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you so much, Madam Commissioner Chair. My name is Said Juma Chitembwe, currently serving in the Civil Division of the High Court at Milimani Law Court. I was recruited in the judiciary on the 2nd of April 2009, and I've worked as a High Court judge in Kakamega, Malindi, Marsabit, and Migori. I've also had some visitation in Embu and Meru. Before then, I was a corporation secretary at the National Social Security Fund from the year 2003 up to 2009 when I was recruited. Before joining the Social Security Fund, I was a practitioner in Mombasa, in my own firm, which I started in 1994. So I've had that stint. When I finished the university in the year 1990, I went back for my master's at the University of Nairobi, which degree was not completed. But I went to the UK for a master's degree in human rights at the University of Essex. And I've been working in the legal field ever since I finished the university in 1990.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Honor. Please tell the Commission why you feel that you are suitable for this position and why the Commission should hire you, Judge Chitembwe.
Thank you so much. As I've already said, I've been in this judiciary for 12 years now, by last week. I have seen it from the period where it was even difficult to have a pen to write, or even a foolscap. And I've seen the good work done by the predecessors. I don't know whether to call them my predecessors. And the judiciary needs somebody who understands it, first and foremost. The judiciary needs somebody who is energetic, resourceful, and somebody who can work with those ones who are within. You appreciate the energies and the competencies of your colleagues, and you become the leader so that you enhance the institution. We know the core objective of the judiciary is to dispense justice. We have been dispensing justice, but coming from within, I know where we have done it well, I know where there are weaknesses, and I know where we can do better and improve the institution. So I believe if I'm to be appointed as the CJ, I'm not saying that I will dig a new foundation. I will build on what others have done with the sole purpose of improving the institution so that it can be what it is as per its vision and mission. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Judge. Please tell the Commission, Honorable Judge, what you see as the role of the Chief Justice. Again, briefly, but yeah, tell us.
The role of the Chief Justice, maybe I'll be using the word CJ, is quite wide. It's not it's not something where you can say it's a simple job, but it is provided for in the Constitution as well as in the Judicial Service Act and the Supreme Court Act. Article 161 establishes the office of the CJ, who shall be the head of the judiciary. So that is the first role. The CJ is the head of the judiciary. You go to Article 163, establishing the Supreme Court. The CJ plays the role of being the president of the Supreme Court. He also presides over that court whenever they are hearing the matters. The other roles within the Constitution, which are, I can say they are duties, like forming the benches whenever there is an issue under Article 165(4) of the High Court to hear matters raising substantial issues of law. Turning to the Judicial Service Commission Act, there is Section 5, which provides for the duties of the Chief Justice. He is the head of judiciary as well as the president of the Supreme Court. He chairs the Judicial Service Commission. He chairs the National Council of Administration of Justice. I think the Act also under Schedule 3 has donated the power of reprimanding judicial officers, interdicting and warning them. So he has that role of ensuring that the staff abide by the code of conduct. There are other roles like being the leader of the judicial, the JLAC, we call it JLAC, Judicial Leadership and Council, where he presides. The other roles are just to do your work and to preside over the court whenever you are called upon, and also you are the link between the judiciary and the other arms of government. So you are the face of the judiciary, I think.
Okay. Thank you very much, Judge. I'll ask you a few questions on leadership, Honorable Judge. The Commission and Kenyans in general are looking for a leader who will champion the transformation of the judiciary. So, Judge, would you describe yourself as a transformative leader? And if so, please demonstrate to the Commission what you have done in your career so far to support your position. In other words, Honorable Judge, what impact has your leadership achieved over the years? Thank you.
I believe this cuts across not within the judiciary, but in my life career. Okay, starting from leadership, you know, leadership, it's not that when you are there, you impose yourself as the chief or the kingpin of the institution. Leadership is something which is pragmatic, something which has been defined in many ways. There are those ones who get leadership through their own charisma. I'm not here to tell you that by being Said Chitembwe, I'm a charismatic leader, like the likes of Napoleon, who will be followed whatever they say. No. I'm not here to say I'm a traditional leader who can inherit the position of the previous CJ. But what I will say is I will be a people-centered leader, whereby you use the energies and experiences of those you are working with and transform the institution. I have had practical experiences. When I was at the NSSF, I was the head of the legal department with a platoon of 7 advocates and several staff.
Honorable Judge, could you maybe remove your mask so we can see you, because I think the social distance there is good enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I've been a leader. I joined NSSF in 2003, and the institution had just started to be reformed. And I was part of that transformation leadership. Many Kenyans think that NSSF is an institution which is not run properly, but for the 6 years I was there, we were able to build up the institution from, I think, a portfolio of less than 40 billion by the time we were living with the 2 COOs I worked under. It was worth over 100 billion. I was part of the investment committee and would sit every Tuesday and do investment projects. Here in the judiciary, I've been a presiding judge in all the courts I've gone. I do work with the high and I do work with the low, the lowly staff. And if you go to every station I've been, there's been no problem. I've worked with everybody, and I've been able to reduce backlog in those courts, and the statistics are there for everybody to see. When I was in Kakamega, the numbers were high. Actually, it was not a one-court station. There were over 7,000 cases, and I overworked myself even to the extent of becoming diabetic. But the idea is you work for the people. So as a leader, I think coming now to the institution, what will I do as a leader to this institution? My vision is to ensure that we do the core mandate of this institution, which is to hear cases and clear the backlog. most of these issues of corruption and incompetence and problems from wananchi are because the cases are piling in court as much as we are hearing them, but they are not getting finished. So as a leader, we have to come with some alternative ways of clearing these cases. I'll give an example. I've been in Milimani for the last, from November last year. I've written over 50 rulings, but these rulings don't finish the cases. It's a ruling, stay of execution, enlargement of time. And the core problem is the typing of proceedings. This advocate believes that the appeal will take over 1 year to be heard. So why can't I get an order of stay? And I don't think it takes magic to have these proceedings typed. There is the magistrate court which generates the appeals, but it's so far delinked from the High Court. Even I don't know, we have never had any meetings between the magistrate courts and the High Court to tell them that why is there any delay. But they also have their own problem. There are only 2 secretaries there. You can't blame them. So as a leader, what will you do to sort out these things? Because my quick gains is the appeals. In my view, an appeal should be heard within 3-4 months. And most of these appeals are maybe running down appeals, or maybe in the other divisions, criminal appeals, where 10 witnesses testified. And why can't the judiciary, I've been asking myself, why can't this judiciary be facilitating these appeals to be heard? What is so difficult? In fact, it's so easy to work in the outer stations than to work in Nairobi. In the outer stations, work moves faster than in Nairobi. I don't know why. And yet, Nairobi, it's meant to be the focus of the judiciary. So in my transformative leadership, we'd like to transform this problem, because most of the backlog is in Nairobi. Each division has more than 3,000-4,000 cases. I think the High Court has about 100,000 cases pending. So you can say I'm homegrown, and I do understand the institution. So this core mandate of transforming the core issue of dispensing justice to all, I think I am best placed to deal with this problem. I'm not saying I'll do it alone. You also need the energies of the registries. You need the energies of the secretaries to type. I've not understood why judges go for service week, yet we cannot pull secretaries for 2 weeks to type these proceedings. They can also be engaged in service week. All what you need to do is to pay them their per diems. I've also not understood why in the outer stations, the legal assistants, they type the proceedings. They type the proceedings. You call them, you talk to them, and you give each court assistant 1 file. By Thursday, from Monday, that file would have been typed. So everybody is engaged. In fact, in Malindi, even the drivers, they were incorporated to type proceedings. Typing means you type and the clerk will proofread, and even the judicial officer will proofread. So apart from the core mandate, the other issues like ensuring that the work environment is conducive for the staff. Thanks to those who have gone before us, there has been a great effort in developing the courts. When I came in, there were very few court stations, and even those ones which were there, getting a desk or an office to sit was also a problem. But I've seen the judiciary being transformed to where it is now. We are better off. At least I can say we have tried. It has been good work, and I do appreciate those who have gone before us. But we'll build on that so that the courts can be completed. In fact, if I were to be the new CJ, I would not even initiate any new law court. I would wait until all those which are in the process of being built to be completed, because I think we have quite a number of projects which are ongoing, and the resources seems to be limited. So you cannot be happy to open a plaque that you are starting the construction of a court which will take 10 years to be completed. You'd rather get the one which is ongoing to be completed. And I think we have more than 40 projects ongoing, and where are the resources going to come from? So maybe, I don't know whether I should continue or I've said enough, but my transformation agenda, there are those ones who, there is the strategic plan, which was started by Honorable Justice Maraga, 2019-2023. I will build on that so that we bring justice nearer to the people. We open up the counties which do not have high courts. We try to establish high courts, not necessarily by building new courts. I'll give an example like Isiolo. I've been there. The court which was there was sufficient to even harbor 2 judges. But we have built a very big court, which may be there, and there is no judge there. And it's a very beautiful court. I wish that court could have been built in Meru, where even to get a space to sit is difficult. So sometimes, I know it's a World Bank project, but I don't think the World Bank insisted on building the court in Meru. It is us who would advise that we build the court in Meru. So there are those areas where it's people-driven, not... okay, as a leader, you take the responsibility of all what is being done in the judiciary, but you also consult. You don't just say, I need a court in Kwale. I know there is one being built in my county, and it's equally a bigger court, very big. It's a World Bank project. I don't know why the Mombasa one didn't start earlier than the Kwale one, because the Mombasa one is started just recently. So, Madam Chair, those are my thoughts. I can say more and more and more for the next 1 hour on this issue of leadership, because leadership is humility, leadership is being humble. You interact with all the staff in the institution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge. I'll now request Acting Chief Justice, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, to continue with the questions.
I thank you. My Lord, let us stay with the transformation agenda. This institution of the judiciary, since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, has almost sung the transformation song. What to you is transformation, and why the transformation in this institution?
Thank you, Commissioner, Acting Chief Justice. The judiciary can be equated to an organization or even a business. And in every business, all the time, you have to keep up on your toes and keep on re-engineering the business and transforming it. Why the transformation song? That is a very vital question. We have to know where we came from. When I was recruited, I think there were 30-something judges, both in the High Court and the Court of Appeal. We were 42, I think, that time in 2009. And with a population then of about 40 million, I don't think the judiciary would have served the public. And that's why when Honorable Mutunga came in as per his famous quote, he found the judiciary in a position which it could not dispense justice. And it was considered as another arm of the government. Independence of the institution, not of the individual judges, was perceived to have been lost. And with the coming in of the new constitution, there was the need to transform this institution. That's why we saw the proposals even to have all the judges and judicial officers vacate their positions and reapply afresh. This one was reduced to the vetting, which we did go through. And that is now the background. You can see the public view on this.
All right, my lord, shall we move from the background then and come to you? And my lord, please tell this commission what Chief Justice Chitembwe brings in the form of transformative leadership in the institution. Chief Justice Mutunga did his part, JTF. Chief Justice Maraga did his part, SJT. What is Chief Justice Chitembwe's thing? What is it?
I think
my lord, you are off here.
Thank you. For the first 6 months in office, I will not intend to bring in any new agenda other than picking from the SJT. The duration of the SJT plus the strategic plan is still running. I already know what the institution weaknesses are and where to enhance. So an institution is like an organization. If you are appointed as a new CEO, you don't come in with radical issues where you pluck this and that. But all I can say is I will pick up on the sustaining judiciary transformation. The same core issues, I will enhance them the way Justice Maraga did. Justice Maraga saw there was the 4 pillars of Justice Mutunga. Access to justice, Mutunga concentrated on building courts so that access to justice would have been closer. Justice Maraga emphasized on access to justice with the emphasis on the processes. So I will build on that. Transforming the institution, I will try as much as possible, and this I'm putting it in bold, to reduce the backlog. This is where the problem is, because any Kenyan who files a case expects it to be heard and to be completed as the Constitution requires, timely. If our vision is to dispense justice in a timely manner, how comes a case takes 10 years?
My lord, thank you. Maybe you could give us the title of your transformative leadership agenda.
My transformative leadership agenda will be to dispense justice within reasonable time, and I will come up with the timelines. To me, a new file, we have put 1 year, which is the current situation. I will not come up with any new style to say a file like a murder case should be had within 1 year. In fact, I will enhance it to 2 years, but strictly 2 years, to be completed within 2 years. I will come up with a strategy to complete an appeal within 1 year, and I will come up with a strategy to, I don't know, you wanted me to coin something
yes, my lord, that's what we're asking for.
Judiciary.
That's what we're asking for you.
Okay, so my label will be dispensing justice within reasonable time.
And that is all encompassing, my lord. So shall we then go to the next issue? My Lord, you told us earlier today the various roles of the Chief Justice. And you named quite a number of them. Kindly tell this commission which you consider to be the more important role of the Chief Justice, the challenges therein, and how you would overcome those challenges.
Okay, I would say all the roles are important because they're intertwined. Being the head of the judiciary covers all the other roles, and being the chairperson of the JSC, because the chairperson of the JSC is like the heartbeat of the judiciary, where the policies are being done, and the CJ and the administrative wing goes to implement. So the most important role is not, I would not say even presiding over the Supreme Court is very important, because you are the head of the judiciary. So your role is to ensure that the judiciary is working. So this covers the aspect of ensuring that the courts are dispensing justice, and the resources which are required to dispense that justice are available. Coming to the challenges of the CJ's office, it's not all sweet. It has its own bitter aspects. There is the role of being the head of the judiciary and working with the other arms of the government. There are those challenges where sometimes you might want to do something, but the finances are not there. So finances would be one of the biggest challenging aspects of the position, because you want to complete a court, but the finances are not there. You also want to, even last time we wanted to have benches to finish cases at the civil division, but there were no finances to pay the judges who would be called from other stations. Those will be the challenges. Other challenges include getting the commitment of each and every staff in the judiciary to be with you. There are those ones who will be with you. There are those ones who will just be hanging around. So there are those challenges where you have to motivate them as the leader. So the position is challenging because it has so many aspects which calls upon you to be the one giving guiding the others. But once you take up the position, you cannot just say I'm the CJ in the positive way, but whatever challenge, I am not concerned. There are many challenges, Madam Acting Chief Justice. There are the challenges of dealing with the members of the public. What is their expectation? The public expects so much from the judiciary, and yet we cannot meet the expectation. So that is a challenge. And you cannot say within a year I would have satisfied everybody. It takes time.
My Lord, we are now looking for my Lord's way of overcoming those challenges. How do you surmount them, my Lord?
The problems cannot be surmounted overnight. It needs patience. It needs consultation. Consultation is one of the avenues to surmount those challenges. Another avenue is to maybe call upon the other arms of the government to understand the importance of the judiciary. Another aspect of surmounting them is to go down, not to be the ruler who comes in and carries the whip. Can you finish these cases? Can you do this? There are other aspects of administration which I believe I can do. I'll give an example of these anti-corruption cases. I've never understood why the law says the case should be heard from day to day, and yet it's not heard from day to day. It's parked in court for 3-4 years. And those are the challenges the Mwananchi cannot understand, because to the Mwananchi, a corruption case involves somebody who is rich, and it takes 5 years or more, while somebody charged with stealing a phone is quickly prosecuted and sent to jail. So those are the challenges. How do I reconfigure this judiciary? And my policy would be, why would you take somebody all the way from Samburu to Nairobi to be charged? Why can't we have an anti-corruption court judge in Nyahururu? Why can't we have an anti-corruption court magistrate in Kisumu? I believe they are there. So, since I've said the core is the dispensation of justice, I've seen cases packed in Nairobi. A magistrate here has 10 anti-corruption cases with 35 witnesses each. How would you expect him to finish those cases?
All right. Thank you, my lord. Let's now go to my lord's role as the President of the Supreme Court. And I want to read to my Lord a statement here and then ask a question from it. Broadly speaking, a key dichotomy in legal thought is between normative legal theory and sociological approaches to law. What legal theory characterizes your judicial philosophy? That will be part one. And part two, so you can deal with all of it, is this. Should the law reflect social realities? If your answer is yes, is it to be applied equally to all? How does a judge determine what social interest or public policy to apply? That will universally be acceptable and fit within the dynamics of society. My Lord, we want a discussion on your judicial philosophy, on your legal philosophy as President of the court.
Okay. Legal philosophy, and as the President of the court, normative, sociological, the law is
and my Lord could also tell us, if you may, if this has crossed your path in the 12 years that you have been judged, and how you have resolved cases requiring the application of those two legal philosophies.
Thank you so much. I think sometimes it's so difficult to say this is my legal philosophy, because you will be facing several legal issues with the different dimensions. However, there are those who believe in positivism, where you apply the law as it has been prescribed by Parliament. I don't believe in that. The law is meant to serve us, and it is for the society. It's what the society wants, and apply the law so that you fulfill the needs of the society. So I will go with the sociological approach to the law. This law is, you can have a provision which is becoming difficult to implement because times are changing. So as President of the Supreme Court, I will be that pragmatic and use the sociological approach of applying the law. The law should reflect the social realities. I say yes, because what is its purpose? To serve the social, political, and economic aspects of the society. Should it be applied equally to all? I would say it will all depend on what is before the court. There are those instances where you can say these should apply to all, and there are those instances where it will depend. I can say no, it cannot be a principle of general application. Public interest, it's difficult to quench its thirst. So whenever I know one of the grounds of appeal to the Supreme Court is a matter involving public interest, so it can involve public interest, but it's contrary to certain established principles. So I will not be there just to say because the public wants this, then they should be given. That to me is no. I have been here for 12 years. There are some aspects of the law, and that's why I've been criticized. But one aspect of being a judge is to be criticized and not to be swayed by those criticisms. If I had to give practical examples, I would say maybe I should have written an article or even a book on these sexual offenses. If you go to the prisons currently, I believe Commissioner Olwande will bear me witness, robbery with violence is no longer an issue. There are very few cases of robbery with violence compared to defilement. So the prisons are full with young men charged with defilement cases. If we are to go with the law, anybody who defiles somebody below the age of 18 is guilty. That is what the law says. But what is the practicality? This is not something we can shy away with. Maybe, I don't know whether I'll be asked to explain later, but I'm just trying to give a brief synopsis of, I've been asked of my experience. How do you take a 19-year-old young man to 15 years in jail for having had a relationship with a 17-year-old girl? How? I've tried to read quite widely on this issue. I've seen an example in America where they call the Romeo and Juliet laws, where they have the statutory rape, but they also have some exceptions. So we needed to come up with this. So in my own practical approach to the law, there is section 8.5 and 8.6, which gives a defense to this offense of defilement. If people have been dealing with each other for 3 years, why should I close my mind that because the age was not permitted, this person could not give the consent, I should convict the man?
My Lord, please give us, I'm getting towards the end of my discussion with you, but before we get there, and staying with what you have just said, my Lord, please tell us the instances that would bring the kind of discussion you and I are having to the minds of the judges of the Supreme Court, so that then we can decipher from that the role the president of the court would be playing in the manner my Lord is discussing?
Okay, I think the Supreme Court, by the time the matter reaches there, I don't know whether some of these ones will reach there. I expected some of them to reach the Court of Appeal.
Actually, that's the question, my Lord.
Yes, yes, yes. So, apart from what I was giving as an example, you know, we are talking of a hypothetical situation. If it reaches there, what would the president of the court do? You know, there it's a matter of discussing amongst the 5 judges who might be in the bench or more. But when now it comes to go back to the core aspect of the question, this aspect of normative and sociological approach and public interests, when it comes to the president of the court of, I know everybody is entitled to have his dissenting opinion. I know the judgment is by consensus, by the majority. But if I'm sitting as the president of the Court of Appeal, you don't want to impose because there it's not that you are the president of that court, so your decision is to be the first one to encompass the others. It's a matter of discussion and agreeing. But I will stick to my policy whereby the law should serve the society and not to be swayed so much so that whatever is written in the statute should reign supreme irrespective of the changes in the society. And there are ways of explaining that in the judgment which I will be writing. So I don't know whether I'm answering the core, because I think we have been not getting the core. What is the core? What will I do? So to me, I'll say I'll stick to my sociological policy.
And I thank you, my Lord. The Supreme Court, of which my Lord would be president should you become Chief Justice, sits in a multiple judge bench, always, except for those entry points of very minor things. There is such a word as collegiality. Would my Lord please tell us what that is in practical terms, and what my Lord would do with it amongst the colleagues in the court?
I became so much conversant with collegiality from our current AG when we went for these colloquiums, and his keyword and emphasis is collegiality. We are colleagues. The simple meaning is that we are all colleagues serving the same institution, and as the Supreme Court, we are colleagues, so that whenever we are sitting as a bench, we should discuss what is our view of the matter, not bringing in the personal aspect of interpretation, but we discuss as a group. I've sat in benches in the High Court. You would not decide because I decided like this in my previous decision. Then you have to follow what I said. Another colleague would have decided otherwise in another decision. So it's a compromise. In short, it's a compromise between your personal thoughts and the task at hand. What do we do as colleagues in the bench? Let us decide according to the problem.
Finally, from me, my Lord, what is that one thing that my Lord, as president of the court, is coming to fix? And how is my Lord going to fix that one thing?
I know the composition of the Supreme Court as it is now. The office of the CJ is vacant. The DCJ presides. I'm not seeing any problem which needs to be put in the spanner works. Maybe all what I can say is I will enhance the collegiality. I've never sat there to see if there is any inside problem, maybe infighting amongst the judges, whereby they need to to be talked to. These senior most judges who have been there, I think all of them have been there for more than 3 years. So I'm not going to say I'm going to the Supreme Court to fix this. I don't think I can tell you that. What I can say I will fix is maybe to say if there is any backlog in that court, I will sit down with them and agree on how to clear any pending backlog. But when it comes to administrative issues, I don't think I can say that there is a problem in the Supreme Court. The judges need to be talked to. They are not working together. I don't think I can say that. And honestly, I'm not going to say I'll go and fix a certain problem which I'm seeing at the back of my mind. I know all the judges who are there. I interact with them, and I have no issue with them.
I thank you, my Lord. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I will now request Honorable Judge Wasame to continue with the questions.
Okay. Welcome once again, my Lord Judge. And let's start with where we left. My sister, Acting Chief Justice, left. In your view, there is no problem to be resolved in the Supreme Court, both in terms of jurisprudence, both in terms of the workings of the court. Every 5 years, people are disgruntled with the court. So in your view, you don't think there is a problem to be solved by you as the Chief Justice?
Let me say this. If there are problems, the Bible says, if the case is difficult, return it to me. And so is the Quran. Disgruntling against the Supreme Court will always be there. So it's not something where you'll say, I'll fix the Supreme Court. We are writing unanimous decisions and there is no dissenting opinion, then the problem is fixed. Because a judge of the Supreme Court has his own opinion, has his own ideas. You cannot force him to write a judgment just because of collegiality to sway him to your... We will talk, but whoever is...
So in your view, there is no problem to be solved in the Supreme Court, both in terms of perception of integrity, perception of jurisprudential problems, in terms of delayed judgments. So there is no problem in the Supreme Court for you to settle. That's what I'm asking.
Okay. I think I've been here, I've been reading what the Supreme Court is doing. It has been delivering rulings and judgments as late as this month on the issue of
I am satisfied if you say there is no problem to be settled. There is no problem to be settled, my Lord.
I will be honest, I don't like beating about the bush. Maybe the problem is that of perception. You know, perception as a problem will always be there. But how do you cleanse perception? How do you cleanse it?
So there is no problem to be settled in the Supreme Court?
To my mind, if there is, I don't know it.
Has the jurisdiction of the court been settled 10 years down the line in terms of election petitions, in terms of arbitration, and in terms of criminal law?
First and foremost, you have to acknowledge that the Supreme Court does not bind itself. And it has been there for, this is the 9th year. And there's been dynamics. I've read the case of the Wajir governor, where 2 judges had their different opinion on this issue of elections.
I invite you to go to specifics, and I'm asking,
yes,
has the jurisprudence on jurisdiction, on arbitration matters, election petitions, and criminal law settled by the court? And I want you to go to specifics. If it has been settled, say yes, and then proceed. If it has not been settled, say no, and then you answer.
I can't say it has not been settled because there are divergent views.
So that is a problem for you, isn't it, to solve?
It's not a problem, and I will give you the answer. It's not a problem in the sense that a similar problem will come and the judge will stick to his earlier position. How do you solve it? Will you force him to say pre-election issues should not be determined by IBC, can come all the way to the Supreme Court? Will you sway the others to tell them, no, if this matter is not, it's not res judicata, bring it all the way? So I'm not saying I'm a magician. If I go there, I will call this judge. Why did you decide like this? Can you decide like this? It doesn't go that way.
Okay, let's go to the next question. The judiciary, in terms of the judges, magistrate, and the staff, they are well equipped, well resourced, and well paid. But there is a problem of delayed judgments, failure of advocates to get a hearing date within reasonable time. We are now in the diary of maybe 2021 in some courts, or 2022 in some courts. How do you intend to resolve that problem? And don't tell me about the numbers. The numbers are not an issue.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's true, we have recruited the numbers. It's many hands make light work, but it's not working. Well paid, I do agree. Not all Kenyans get what the judicial officers are getting and the staff. There are delayed judgments. You have been sitting here as the JSC. I believe you have seen the performance of each and every judicial officer. I'm not saying there is laziness. I cannot say that. I can't say that. There are parameters. PMMU is there. Performance management is there, and we sign each year. The strategic plans have come in with the naming and shaming those who are not working. I've never seen anybody named that he or she has not performed. Everybody has been putting a day's work, and all what it needs. You know, if I go there with that personality that I want these judgments to be written within the provided period of 60 days or rulings within 30 days, and you have to do it, that is called the result-oriented leadership, which does not work. I can tell you, it doesn't work. You have to talk to the people and bring them on board to do this work voluntarily. You can set the parameters. Here we are, you are one-man station in Malindi. What is your output? We can see backlog is piling vis-a-vis your output.
Judge,
yes.
What I want you to say, what is your solution for delayed judgment? One. And secondly, what is your solution for failure to get a hearing date within a reasonable time? Say 1, 2, 3. That's what I want from you. Tangible steps.
Okay, the first thing for delayed judgment is the parameters are there. If the judgment is not given as per the provided 60 days, the current system requires that the judicial officer should give reasons. Why didn't you deliver this ruling within the specified period? One, I will follow up what Justice Maraga did, is to write to all the judges, how many judgments do you have, or magistrates, how many judgments do you have which are long overdue? And if possible, I will even tell somebody to take his leave and go and write those judgments and finish them. So that is another way of clearing them. Because I cannot say they are there. I have to know first, are they there? I believe you know they are there. And I will be able now to say, if you have any judgment or ruling which is long overdue, I'm giving you this number of days, can you write it? And if you cannot complete, please tell me what is the problem, because I also have to understand. Maybe the judicial officer was sick, so you cannot force him to write 60 judgments. I know there are judges with who have been on transfer with about 70 judgments which have delayed to write them. When they went to the news stations, they picked other new judgments. So it's the dynamics of the work, which, Commissioner, you know. So you want solutions. So the first solution is give every judicial officer with a pending judgment time to write, instead of absorbing new judgments, so that those who are waiting can know their fate. The other one is to know also the problems. Why are they delayed judgments? Yet we are many, as you correctly put it. We were 42 and we were delivering judgments on time. Why are we 150 and they are delayed judgments? That is another problem to be sorted out. The other issue is on hearing dates. Nowadays we have e-diary. And you don't want, the numbers will always be there, because if the diary itself is speaking the hearing dates, how do you blame it? But I agree with you. My solution will be to ensure that we have, as it has been proposed in some of the procedures, equal number of files for each judge, so that we don't have somebody with a fewer number of cases on his cause list, yet others have 20 doing the donkey work and others are enjoying. So my solution to that is to ensure that we have like a quarterly checkup between January and March. Are dates available? By the time we open up April, did somebody miss a hearing date in March, in that last court, so that he can be given priority?
Okay. Let's come to the workings of the Supreme Court. There is this famous case which went to the East African Court, the Mother Karua case, the Honorable Mother Karua case. Do you agree with the decision of the Supreme Court? And why?
Okay. I have not interacted so much with that specific case, but I've been reading it, that the matter was heard before the court in
I'm talking about the Supreme Court decision.
Yes,
here.
Yes. It started all the way from the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the issue involved election petition, and I think the Supreme Court was of the view that time had already lapsed to hear the matter, because by the time the applications were heard, when it went back, my sister said the time had lapsed. I can say I do agree with what the Supreme Court said, because they have timelines with these election petitions.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about the timelines, now that you talked about the timelines.
Yeah, it's provided in the Constitution and the Elections Act that an election petition has to be heard within the period of 6 months. And that time does not stop running. So it's incumbent upon any...
Where do you get that the time does not run, does not stop running? Because it talks about 6 months.
This is now the jurisprudence which has come up, including the case you are referring to, because I think the main issue was I went to the Court of Appeal for an appeal. When I came back, I was told time did not stop running, and my case was not determined substantively. So that has been the issue. Time, okay, the 6 months is from where the case is instituted, not at the Supreme Court level, where we say High Court 2 months, Court of Appeal 2 months, Supreme Court 2 months. No. The 6 months is that if a matter is filed before the magistrate court involving a member of county assembly, that court should determine it within 6 months. If it goes to appeal, the presumption is that the
judge.
Yes.
If a High Court judge like yourself was hearing Mother Karua's case, a preliminary objection is raised on the first day, and the judge takes 6 months, almost the last day of the 6 months, as you are alleging, according to your interpretation, delivers the judgment on a preliminary objection only. does Honorable Mother Karua lose her right for the 6 months? Because maybe 6 months was used by the court. What's your interpretation on whether the 6 months should be concurrent or consecutive in all the courts?
Okay, I don't want to speak for others, but it will be unusual for a judge to sit with a ruling on appeal, which ordinarily ought to be raised within the first few days of sitting and deliberating on the way the petition will be heard, and wait until the last day to deliver your ruling, and then you tell the litigant, I can't hear your matter. I believe that should not be the case. That should not be the case.
If that is the case,
if that is the case,
Supreme Court, yes, what will you do as a presiding judge and the president of the Court of Appeal in such a scenario, the president of the Supreme Court in such a scenario, where the time has been consumed by the courts? And I can tell you for free, 2.5, almost 3 months of the 6 months of Mother Karua was consumed in the Court of Appeal, and almost 2 months, almost 3 months was consumed by the High Court. So therefore, I want you to address your mind whether the 6 months should be consecutive between the courts or concurrent. That which means if the matter comes to the Court of Appeal and it's remitted back, when does time run for the 6 months?
Okay, I'm getting you. I'll go back to what Acting CJ has asked me. The law serves the society, and not the society to be served by the law. What is the substantive justice in this matter? The petitioner wanted to be heard, and for us to know whether the person who was elected was properly elected. I'll go with this consecutive, so that since another court has been utilizing the 6 months, which was to be used by the High Court, let the 6 months start running from the time you stopped, if you stopped after 2.5 months. But also, a case is decided on its own merit. I don't know whether the judge felt that you are the one who started initiating this and frivolous and whatever. That's why I'm saying it's not cast on stone where you say consecutive or concurrent. It will all depend on what has transpired, because sometimes a judge will see you are the one bringing in delaying tactics. We sat here, we agreed to hear the matter. The moment a witness is put there, you raise objection. I allow you, we want, because as I've seen a recent decision in the Supreme Court on criminal matters, you have asked me that whenever there is an application for interim orders, the case should continue before the trial court. So in my view, I would even say, even if they are preliminary, unless the Court of Appeal stops me as a judge of the High Court to hear the matter, and if the litigant doesn't want to come and proceed with this case, when you come back, I'll tell you my 6 months is running. But if there is a stop time by the Court of Appeal saying the petition court should stop hearing the petition, then time stops running. That's the practicality of it.
Okay. What solution do you have on matters involving integrity by judges and magistrates?
I believe by now, 80% of the judges were vetted and approved by this commission. You must have looked at their background, and you are well conversant with their integrity. So integrity is not something which you can say this man has a high integrity. It can be lost within an hour for other reasons. What will I do to ensure that the judges and magistrates are people of high moral integrity, professional, and do their work so that we enhance the good name of the institution? First and foremost, we need training. We also need to know what are the problems bedeviling the institution in form of corruption, real and perceived. What is the problem? How do we go about it? There are those incidents of corruption in the registry and whatnot. Those ones can be dealt with through technology and transparency. But you know, now every judicial officer decides, makes decision personally on his own, or the benches in the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. So I'll do my best to try and see how we can reshape the integrity of the judges so that they know it is their utmost requirement that a judge who has been bestowed with the position of being a judicial officer should behave, and both as a judge and as a citizen of this country, with high integrity and professionalism. So there is no cure where you can say, I'll come with a spray and spray them and they will all be people of integrity. It's something which takes time, and it's a negotiated thing. It is something which you have to. And also, you will see, because as the president of the Supreme Court and the head of judiciary, the letters will come. I was a presiding judge, and I'll give an example. You have like 10 magistrates under you. You will receive letters, complaints. Some are real, some are just because somebody has lost his case. So, Commissioner, I will endeavor to ensure that this aspect of integrity is enhanced, and the judicial officers, because it's cut across, like you said, delayed judgments. That also affects the integrity of the judicial officer. Whoever is waiting for that judgment might think that this judge, why is he delaying? So he loses confidence on the judiciary as an institution. So the process...
Wow, thank you for your time.
And do you have any question for us?
How juicy.
Juicy. Juicy. Niko fiti maze maze niko fiti majamana mabenti wako fiti. Juicy fruit, juicy fruit, juicy fruit, juicy fruit.
It's made a lot richer, thicker, tastier. Only when life goes mosmos, it's a lot tastier.
Like every mom, you want the best for your child.
Happy birthday.
You make sure she knows the joy of sharing happy moments with family. And when everything comes together, you above all others will share the taste of success with her. Blue Band tastes like mama's love.
Just one capful of Dettol is enough to disinfect surfaces and protect your family and your home. Dettol, tested effective against COVID-19.
Introducing Ushindi Cream Bar Soap. Ushindi Cream Bar Soap with Oxy Bright removes stains effortlessly and brightens colors. Available in 1 kilogram and 800 gram bars and 175 gram tablets. Also available in all your favorite variants. Ushindi, a quality product from Pwani Oils.
Vaseline Skincare. Vaseline locks in any moisture on your face without adding other ingredients that might irritate your skin. A layer of Vaseline applied before you sleep can help restore your face's natural level of moisture and softness.
To keep skin restored, that's the healing power of Vaseline.
Because how do you solve this problem? I can't sit and swear these judges. I can't. I can't. Even if the court orders me to swear them, I will not. I am a man of principles. I have to follow the law. So the law says it's the president to gazette them and swear them. That's the law. So I cannot sit and say, as the president of the Supreme Court and head of judiciary, I will solve it on my own. I have to go and sit down with the person responsible for swearing them, and this is the president. We have this problem. I also have to know their reasons why they are not swearing them. Although we have had it in the public domain, has anybody sat with the president and asked him, why are you not swearing this? Maybe he has his own reason. And I believe it's something which now can be whittled down into several parts. And this is my thoughts. If there is no problem with the 10 judges of the labor courts, I will have them, and the president is ready to swear them, I will say swear them. Then we slowly go to the other problem. If there is no problem with the judges of the land court, there are 20, and the responsible person says, I can swear this one, I will quickly call them and go to State House and have them sworn. Then we go to the Court of Appeal. What is the problem? So I have to know first what is the problem. You know, I don't want to speculate that there is A, B, C, D. We have to know what is the problem. And if there are individuals within those who are vetted where there is a problem. You know, maybe Swahili is a national language. We Swahilis say it's better to take 9 rather than wait for 10. So if I'm told I can swear these 40 except 41, I will take it. I know people will say how the president of the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, was compromised. No, we want the work to move. Aren't you better off with the 20 of those judges sworn and coming to the judiciary to work? And then we'll deal with those ones who are not, who have not been sworn in. What is their problem? So I'm not saying that if you are to declare me the CJ, it's something I will say within my 100 days you will see those judges there. It also depends on, we have been there for almost a year. Why hasn't it been solved?
Thank you very much, Judge. And another problem we are facing is disobedience of court orders. What would you do to ensure court orders are obeyed and we all submit to the rule of law as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya?
I've been asked the question, what type of a leader are you coming? There is, the transformative leadership is all-encompassing, but there are those other aspects of leadership. As a leader, you also have to go to the deep root of those problems. First and foremost, you need solutions. I have to come up with a catalog of those orders which have not been complied with. I know, apart from orders, there are even the simplest of issues. As a judge, you see an application to commit a PS to civil jail because X was knocked down by a GK vehicle. He has not been paid. 300,000 has multiplied to 1 million because of interest. That also is disobedience of a court order. The judgment says you pay. I've seen effort from the executive where they say they will come up with a budget through the AG's office to pay some of these things. But let's go now to the core where you say there is disobedience of court orders. I wish you would have given me an example to say like the court said this, but okay, there are those ones like even for the 41 judges, there are court orders. I believe that is one example. There are court orders that they be sworn in. The only cure I will tell you, and this is for a fact, I don't want to beat about the bush, I've told you, the only solution is negotiation. I believe whoever is disobeying the court order, we swear by the Constitution that we will ensure that we'll abide by the Constitution. The Constitution establishes the rule of law, so we should all be controlled by the law. So negotiation will be my main focus. There is this order which says ABCD, and the so-and-so is disobeying this court order. Can we have it complied with? Because we cannot have court orders in vain. Then why do we have the judiciary?
And lastly, my Lord Judge, why Cielo and not Kwale? And thank you very much. I wish you well.
Can I hear the why not?
I said, why Cielo and not Kwale? And I wish you well.
Thank you, Commissioner. I didn't get the comparative of Isiolo and...
if I give you the comparative, is that you say the court in Isiolo should have been built in Meru and something like that, and then you commented on Kwale, your hometown, and I'm now saying, why Isiolo and not Kwale? Why have you not said the court in Kwale should have been built in Meru? Why are you picking on Isiolo? I wish you well.
Thank you so much. Why Isiolo and not Kwale? I'm not saying that the Isiolo County does not deserve that court. But we, as a judiciary, we are thin on resources. So this effective utilization of resources should be used effectively. If you have a court which can serve for the next 10 years in Isiolo, why do you build another one there? That is my issue. Is it proper utilization of resources? The Isiolo court could have come maybe another 5 years that. Why not? Why Kwale? Kwale, I've practiced in Mombasa. It has a sizable number of cases from Kwale, especially land. And I've practiced in Meru. That's why I say Isiolo. I've seen I've been a judge in Meru. I've seen the number of appeals coming from Isiolo. Basically, there is the Isiolo court and I think a circuit at Archer's Post. Those are the main courts in Isiolo. But if you compare it with the Kwale, the volume of work in Kwale, there are how many magistrates? There are two courts actually in Kwale, Msambweni and Kwale. But I was just saying, giving a comparative of proper utilization of resources, but I'm not saying that Isiolo does not deserve, because the general objective is to put up a high court station in each county, and I do agree that we need a high court station in Isiolo. We need it. To add more on that, I believe I've been in Marsabit, and I am wondering why the judge in Marsabit cannot go to Isiolo to open up the court. He's idle in Marsabit, less than 200 files.
Thank you very much, Honorable Judge. Judge, the Commission received sample writings as we requested, so I will now ask Honorable Justice David Majaja to ask you questions regarding technical writing. Judge Majaja.
Thank you, Chair. My Lord, you submitted 5 judgments ranging from 2011 up to 2017. I was just wondering whether you stopped writing after 2017.
Honestly, Commissioner, when I was told sample writings, this is my first time I'm appearing for interview. It never crossed my mind that I'll come here and be asked in this writing. I would have slept for 1 week and picked what I think would have been ideal. But when I was told sample writing, I thought you would just come and look at them and say, is this judge within the parameters of judgments and whatever.
So you're saying these are not your best?
No, I can't say they are my best. Whatever judgment you write is your best, but there are those ones you say, these ones, it's like your clothes. All are your clothes, but you have your Sunday best.
Okay. So anyway, before I proceed on the sample writings, I just want to follow up some of the 1 or 2 issues that were dealt with by my colleagues. The first one was the issue of perception, because in administration of justice, perception plays a very important role. That's why we say justice must be seen to be done. And I don't know whether I got it right, you actually said that perception is a problem that cannot be settled. That was your statement. If you look at if you've read the strategic plan of the Supreme Court, one of the threats they identify, and I believe that goes for the entire judiciary, is the threat of shifting public perception that is not based on facts and the distortion of facts. My colleague Commissioner Warsame also mentioned it. This issue of perception that the judiciary is corrupt or that the Supreme Court is not handling matters well, and is a threat to independence of the judiciary. Just give me some ways in which you intend to deal with that issue of perception so that the public continues having confidence in the judiciary.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think perception can be measured in this scientific era. If you send out questionnaires to the members of public and ask them about corruption in the judiciary, they will give you answers today. 6 months down the line, you send similar questionnaires, you can quantify whether it's improving or it's decreasing or accelerating. So perception has been there, and we have come out from a very bad perception when judiciary was viewed as an executive arm to the current position where judges have been able to write their minds, even if the orders are not effected, ignored, but you have said. So perception, as you say, in the Supreme
So
Court.
what I'm just asking is, what would you do? What 1 or 2 things you would do to improve perception so that it is positive, so that we don't have an issue where the confidence of the public is undermined?
Okay, with the strategic plan, the first thing I will do is to enhance communication from the side of judiciary. We have been doing good things. We have been delivering judgments even in this COVID era. But the communication which goes out to the public, it's not there. The communication aspect from the judiciary, and we have said this time and again, that there is need to communicate to the public what we are doing.
Okay, that is the first one.
That is the first one. The second one, we are dealing with perception, or if there is, now we will go to the specific aspect of the courts, as you are saying, There is that perception that there is corruption in the judiciary. That is also perception. You have to come up with policies how to tackle corruption. I've seen the causes of corruption. We have had many committees formed to deal with these issues. There is no need for me to say if I become the CJ, I will form a committee to go and evaluate why do we have corruption in the judiciary. That is not perception. It's real and it's perceived. So I will deal with the general aspect of the work of the CJ will be to communicate to the public so that that perception, and not only the CJ, but each and every judicial officer, including a judge sitting in the Wajir.
Thank you, my lord. Now, you actually took, you knew this issue of Martin Chara was going to come up, and you are aware that it's an issue of public notoriety. It has been the subject of complaints, and I believe you have answered. That case, in that case, you said, in fact, we agree with you that, in fact, there are defenses in certain instances, which is what you said, isn't it? Now, the problem of the notoriety of this case is that it has been termed, and that it was the worst judgment, according to the Women's Link Worldwide Bludgeon Awards, because it failed, the comments that were made therein, made by a judge, and courts have strong influence on the sense of justice and the daily life of people in countries across the world, whatever their political system or religious traditions and beliefs. So what they were complaining about is not so much that there is a defense. They are saying that it is the manner in which you communicated your sentiment. That was the complaint. It's not even that the decision was right or wrong. Yes? That is the complaint. You have talked about communication. Now, in your own view, the way you communicated this decision, is it something you have reflected on?
The way I communicated in that decision, I will communicate the same. And the idea is to also to communicate to the public that whatever is happening, it's not something to shy away from. So that we come with moderate, soft words. One thing I'll tell you is that when I write my judgment, I'm not considering what the judge of appeal will say. I'm dealing with the problem as a judicial officer independently. And if another person feels that I use strong words and criticizes me, I'm ready to be criticized. That's why we are judges.
Yes, we are ready to be criticized, but isn't there an obligation on a judge, and you will be the Chief Justice writing judgments, isn't there an obligation to communicate to the public clearly without leaving a situation where somebody who is marginalized feels that you are not giving due attention to the situation? And I'll read for you what you said there. And I'll read for you. You said there, it is important to distinguish between law and morals. It is the law that a child below the age of 18 cannot consent to sex, which is true. Section 8.5 qualifies the provisions of Section 8.1 and 8.4, which penalizes defilement. It can easily be concluded that it is immoral for one to have sex with a child under the age of 18 years. However, where the child under 18 who is protected by the law opts to go into men's houses for sex and then goes home, why should the court conclude that such a person was defiled? In my view, that cannot be defilement. The complainant normally does not complain, but is made to be the complainant because she is 18. My view is that such a behavior is that of an adult and not a child. children are not meant to enjoy sexual intercourse. Whenever they do, then that becomes the behavior of an adult. Although the public will frown upon an adult who engages in sex with a child, we should not forget the circumstances have changed. Young children engage in sex at a very young age. This is not out of defilement. Conviction of a defiler should be based on actual circumstances and proof that the complainant was indeed defiled. So basically, when a person reads this, they say, you as a judge are saying it is okay and a defiler should be let free if a child behaves like an adult. And it is something that, should not be discouraged. That is what the complainants are saying.
Everybody will complain, Judge and Commissioner. Sorry to call you Judge. As I've said, everybody has his own interpretation of what you say. I believe I used very polite words, and I was picking from what the complainant said. If you go back, the complainant, I will be very honest, the proceedings before the magistrate court, that complainant said, I went to this man's house to have sex and I go home. That's what that lady said.
Now, of course, that is different from your other decision. There's the decision of you gave the decision, the Council of Imams versus Attorney General. And in that case, you were very, very clear that whatever the cultural, religious, social issues, child marriage is illegal and it cannot be permitted, isn't it? And in fact, you were very firm. There was no equivocation on your part.
And if you will allow me 2-3 minutes, these are two distinct cases. The first case deals with the defilement of a 14-year-old girl with a man that have been together for 3 years. The second one is a deliberate. You get a 16-year-old girl, marry her off and say the Islamic religion allows somebody to be married at that age. So distinctively, if I am to say it's true, because she was 16, she agreed to be married there, because the problem in the second case was these people had been charged in a criminal case, and now they came to me saying the charges should be quashed because this lady was 16 years and she agreed to be married. The parents gave her to get to be married. Can I say that truly at 16-year-old you are not being defiled, you are being married, and the law should encourage that? I can't say that.
Yes.
And that's why I came up and said, you go and face the criminal cases, and it is not possible. The law does not allow that. Turning now to the other one, here we are with the people who are friends, and now it's not a marriage. This is a friendship which has been subsisting for over 3 years. The facts are clear there. And in my mind, I was saying, surely, I can smell defilement from very far. The moment I read the charge sheet and the evidence of the complainant, I will know this is defilement. But there are those gray areas where you can see, surely, if the law should serve the society in this situation, do we have a defilement? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the problem there is really the issue of communication, and I just wanted you to tell us, in one case, any women, children looking at both cases, how do they perceive the issue that the law protects them in terms of the kind of issues they face today, sexual harassment, sexual exploitation? How is that to be communicated as a judge who knows that this is a very serious issue?
Okay, I'm getting you, Commissioner. Everybody has his own style of writing. I believe maybe somebody else will say, if I was the one, I would have written like this, massage the paragraphs, say how did this lady fall into this and that. So to me, as you have said, it was deemed to be the worst. Where was the competition done? It doesn't bother me. Who came next the following year? Why haven't we heard of another one? We have just heard of that. When was it remitted for competition? Who assessed it? So the following year, who took the trophy? So those are things which, as a judge, does not bother me.
Okay.
But communication, you have said, on reflection, I think I did my best to deal with the case at hand. And I can tell you for sure, despite all these olabalus, the number of magistrates who have called me to say you have freed us from these shackles of Sexual Offences Act are many.
Okay. Next question I wanted to ask, and it follows up from what my previous commissioners talked about. 10 years of any institution is a time for reflection. And as a judge who wishes to join the Supreme Court and be a leader, you have reflected on that court, you have read its jurisprudence. And one of the purposes of the Supreme Court is to develop rich jurisprudence that respects Kenya's history, traditions, and facilitates social, economic, and political growth. In your view, has the Supreme Court succeeded or failed in this area? And whichever is your answer, give us one or two cases which you think it has succeeded or failed.
Thank you. I do agree that the Supreme Court, being the apex court, should develop indigenous jurisprudence. In my view, it has succeeded. That is my answer. It has succeeded. There are quite a number of judgments coming from that court. I think Commissioner Warsame talked of arbitration. I believe he was referring to the Nyutu case versus Airtel, where the Supreme Court held that although the Arbitration Act seems to restrict appeals, where in certain situations an appeal can be made to the Court of Appeal if the award by the arbitrator and the finding of the High Court seems to be enhancing injustice. There are so many other cases. We have the Murwatetu case. This is one aspect of the sociological aspect of the law. The law says the death sentence shall be the punishment for murder. The Supreme Court did not outlaw the death sentence, but in its wisdom came up with the idea that it should not be mandatory, and that is a good aspect of the law. In their wisdom, the Supreme Court nullified the presidential elections, and I was reading this judgment from Malawi, which nullified the presidential elections there, and they were quoting the Kenyan case.
Okay, just to go to the Nyutu case, one of the criticisms the Court of Appeal has faced from time to time is the issue of expanding jurisdiction. You've heard of that controversy. But in the Nyutu case, it even goes further and expands not only its jurisdiction, but the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeal. What effect do you think that has on administration of justice and certainty of legal procedures?
Okay, we have to look at this Nyutu case from the perspectives of arbitration. Arbitration is different from mediation. In mediation, the parties even sign that they're satisfied with this decision. arbitration, we agreed to go to an arbitrator. And I can say for sure I do agree with what the Supreme Court said. If the decision of the arbitrator is taken to the High Court, it's either approved or set aside, and the law wants it to be stopped there. It's true there should be finality of decisions, but can we say that the arbitrator and the judge, their word should be final? Can't we reopen it up so that 3 judges of the Court of Appeal can evaluate this issue?
But isn't that the same position when parties enter into a contract? They agree that, you know, this is our contract. If we disagree, we want a sense of finality irrespective of what other people think. Because they've already a priori said we agree to be bound by this contract. So what business does the court have saying your decision to be bound by an agreement is no longer final, when in fact when you contracted you knew that the statute under which you are contracting gave it some sense of finality?
There is that sense of finality, but okay, even in mediation, the one who signs maybe will unwillingly sign because he went there. And even in arbitration, definitely not all of them will be satisfied with the arbitrator's decision. But in my view, you know, when you are dealing, you can say so if you are dealing with an issue where you cannot read and say, I know even the Supreme Court decision, which is final, can be criticized and say this one, the Supreme Court got it wrong.
Actually, the law draws a balance between finality and your sense of justice. So now we have a problem because the Court of Appeal has said, or the Supreme Court has said, you know, if this decision is wrong or it is exceptional circumstances, and you sit in the civil division, and one of the things we were told, for example, the BPRT, the High Court is the final, isn't it? An appeal, there is no appeal from BPRT, there is no right of appeal from BPRT to the Court of Appeal. That's why we used to sit 2 on appeals of BPRT, although that no longer happens. So does that mean now a decision of the BPRT is appealable to the Court of Appeal? Because the Supreme Court has said, you know, there are certain circumstances under which you can appeal, irrespective of whether there is a right of appeal or not.
It will all depend on how the consumers of these decisions will do. If somebody comes before the High Court or the Court of Appeal and say, I've been before the BPRT and the decision of the High Court is against me and seems to be final on the strength of neutral, I would like to reopen this case and litigate before the Court of Appeal.
So you agree with me that
yes,
there has been a sense of uncertainty brought about by the Supreme Court itself?
I do agree.
Okay. Now, next question is, you talked about public interest. Part of the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in civil matters, what is the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in handling civil matters?
The jurisdiction, there is, I can highlight, there is the jurisdiction to hear the election petition. I believe that is a civil matter, quasi-civil, but it's a civil matter, presidential election. And the next one, there is the advisory opinion, which is a civil jurisdiction. We have the appeals from the Court of Appeal and tribunals. I have not seen an appeal from the tribunals going directly to the Supreme Court. But there is the jurisdiction to deal with appeals directly when they deal with constitutional station. If it's a matter dealt with appeal involving of the Constitution, an appeal lies as of right to the Supreme Court. On the other aspects of the jurisdiction, It's a matter of public interest, and I think the Supreme Court has dealt with that.
Now, on that small issue, you said public interest. Use there is of general public importance. What to you is the difference between a matter of public interest, general public importance, and how would you do?
Public interest can be compartmentalized. You can dissect it. You can have anything in the name of public, but they're serving their own sectional interests. General importance is wider. It covers, read this issue, it seems to be affecting the general BBI. If an issue is presented before the relating to BBI, all the way from the High Court of Appeal, of general public importance. So public interest is narrower compared to general public.
And what is the test in your view? How would you distinguish? That is where the Supreme Court jurists vis-a-vis the. How would you distinguish the two?
The short answer to that will all depend on the issue itself and the objective interpretation of the court, because I cannot perceive an issue and say this is general public importance. For instance, if it's a nationwide issue, which is the concern of the general public, like I'll give an example, like if an issue, somebody was to say Kenya should no longer borrow from the IMF or from whoever, and goes to the Constitutional Court, and an appeal is taken to the Court of Appeal, that is a matter of general public importance. That is an
so
example.
Any cases that come to mind?
I'm giving because there isn't. I'm giving an example that.
I mean, because
yes.
What I want to know is the test, because part of the complaint you will hear out there is that the Supreme Court came to solve all our problems, isn't it? That why do we have a Supreme Court yet it is not hearing our issues? So 164 has said no. We are not dealing with everything. We are dealing with issues of general public importance as opposed to public interest. So one of the things you will be dealing with on everyday basis is how do we distinguish these two streams? That this one, go home, it is public interest but not general public importance. And this one may be of general public importance but the public has no interest.
There is no one answer to that. I will lie to you to say this group of cases belong to general public importance, and this one, because it's initiated by lawyers or by an NGO, it's a matter of public interest. Okay. It will all depend. My answer is this. Honestly, it will all depend on the problem itself.
Okay. There are many Supreme Court on that. Next question, and just as I'm finalizing on this aspect, one of the issues that concerned me when you were starting, and this goes, you've talked about a backlog and dealing with backlog, and thank you for exposing some of the problems we face. One of the issues you said that, which I caught, is that you worked yourself to the extent of becoming a diabetic. Now my concern is this, room 17, you are holding 5 hearts. What fear, should I fear that those 5 hearts will cause you to aggravate your diabetes? And what is it you will do to prevent, to avoid this kind of situation?
Okay, I think the bigger problem is the induction. When you are inducted, that time you are not warned against overworking yourself. And that is a bigger problem. I think some of the committees came up with the issue that newly recruited staff should be inducted. I'll give you an example. On a Thursday when I had confirmation of grants, I would sit from 9 to 3 without even taking a break. I've learnt my way in the judiciary that you need to take a break after maybe 2 hours. And the many hats, these many hats will not come when I'm just seated in the office doing the work of many hats. You'll have to go out, interact, you have to come for a meeting and deliberate on issues. So it's not an issue that one has to do this work whether you are diabetic or not, whether you are epileptic or not. Those are conditions which are there. But I've learned from the hard way how to handle these many hats. That time, I think I was overworking myself, no exercise from the office, to go and sit and write judgments up to maybe midnight in the morning. You wake up by 5, you are definitely will be sick.
Thank you. And finally, I think in one of the papers today, and since this COVID started, the issue of domestic violence has gained a lot of prominence. What do you see is the role of the CJ dealing with the problem of domestic violence?
Okay, the domestic violence, I believe, is related to the family, not mainly husband and wife. Even children are affected by this violence. It's not a Chief Justice only problem, because those involved have to be arrested and prosecuted and the cases fast-tracked so that if one is convicted, it can send messages to those who are involved. There are already cases in court, people chopped off their hands and convicted. So the role of the judiciary and also of the CJ will be to ensure that whoever is implicated in this is prosecuted. But I'll have another angle to this.
Now, let me just ask, is there any of the hats you're wearing that focuses on this particular issue?
Yes, there is the hat of being the head of judiciary, and the hat of National Administration, Council of Administration of Justice, where other sectors in the criminal justice or the justice systems are involved. It can be discussed there. The CUCs, that's where I was heading. Sometimes you can see prevalence of an aspect of criminal law, and you go out and educate the people. I remember we used to have so many outer talks in Kakamega in conjunction with the county government. Cases of forest, people being charged with taking wood from the forest, will go near the forest and talk to them. The implication, the cases will reduce. So if, as the chair of the National Council on Administration of Justice, we can rope in the prison, rope in the DPP, and sort of sensitize the public that domestic violence is becoming rampant, and we should know how to deal with it. I think the CJ has a role there to play.
And finally, in terms of case, that same issue, what do you think, the same issue of domestic violence, now we have the COVID situation, we have operations of the courts have been affected. What kind of interventions would you look towards enhancing access to justice in that particular sphere?
We have had COVID, the courts are working, those arrested are taken to court. I know the prisons have been a bit hesitant to take suspects up to open court. We have technology. So as the CJ, I will try as much as possible to ensure that it has worked. All what we can do is to enhance the technology. It has worked. A plea can be taken from the prison as one sits in court, and the prosecutor is in his office. So it's not that we will relax. We will ensure that technology takes over and these cases are heard.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Judge. We are going well. Judge, you can have a sip of water. It's 2 hours. I will now request Honorable Commissioner Machadi Ajero to ask you some questions, and then after that you have Honorable Commissioner Evelyn Orwade to ask you further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My Lord, now let us start on this issue of jurisprudence and your legal philosophy. Now, I read this decision that you made on the Council of Imams and Preachers of Kenya in Malindi, where you were clear that a child cannot be married off because that would not be in line with the Constitution. You extensively made reference to the Constitution. Now, my first question would be that why I took interest in it, the fact that you are a Muslim yourself. Now, how do you handle matters that where your Islamic faith may necessarily not agree with the strict legal provisions of the law? How do you balance that out as you are applying the law, even as maybe sometimes you may not, it may conflict between your religion and what the law states?
I think the Constitution is clear that there is no state religion, so that's the starting point. So when it comes to making decisions, they should be purely based on the law. I'm sure there are certain aspects of the law when they will be brought to you, and you can see that on the one hand, the religion allows, on the other hand, the law says this. That was one aspect, and even at the back of my mind, I knew that those people who filed that case knew that I'm a Muslim, so let's go to this Muslim brother of ours and terminate this criminal case, because he will understand that from time immemorial, under the Islamic faith, a girl of 16 years can be married off. But my view is, first and foremost, you look at the law. And those who married off the 16-year-old girl knew that they are living in Kenya. In fact, I explained that when you are living in a country with the laws, the law comes first. Then the religion will follow. It's not that you are being restricted. You know, there are those issues like a law is passed, don't pray. That will not be law, because it will be contrary to the Constitution. The Constitution acknowledges the freedom of conscience. So no law will be passed that don't go for your Friday prayer. But when now these are purely personal aspects of saying a girl of 16 years can be married, I am a Muslim, it's true. In other countries where they don't have certain laws like Kenya, where the marriageable age is 18, they exercise it. But I will go for the law, because if you go contrary to that, you will be setting a precedent that Muslims in Kenya can marry at 16, and I don't think that is the intention of the law.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Judge. Now, then that brings me to the second question of the issues of judicial activism, where there will always be a conflict between the three arms of government, each saying that this is my responsibility. And I want to specifically come now to the issue of a legislature, because this is something that keeps arising, where the legislature will say that it's our responsibility to pass the laws, just like you've indicated. Then on the other hand, you find a party who comes and challenges that law, and now becomes the responsibility of the judiciary to interpret. Now, oftentimes there's this conflict that arises, that this judicial overreach. Now, what guides you as a judge, and what are your views regarding that? Because yes, the legislature sometimes will also overreach themselves in passing the law, but they'll say that we are the people's representatives, that's our responsibility. But again, now if the judge comes to the decision that seems to overturn that law that has been passed, again the legislature will say this judicial overreach. I don't know, what are your views regarding it, and what guides you as a judge, and what to be your role as the leader of the judiciary if you are to become the Chief Justice in dealing with those aspects?
These are not gray areas. They have been with us. And the work of the judiciary is to interpret the laws as they are passed by the legislature. And the main focus here is the Constitution. The judiciary will pronounce itself that a certain aspect of the law is unconstitutional. There is in my view, that is okay, because it's the duty of the judiciary. We can't say that there is the general presumption that all the law passed is in compliance with the Constitution. But when it's analyzed, it's found that it is not. And it is the duty of the judiciary to punch holes to the law which is unconstitutional. However, we have had courts declaring certain aspects of the law as unconstitutional, but they still remain in the laws. I think there is need to come up with an approach. I have also said in the judgment, one of the judgments Commissioner Majanja referred to, one judge will say this is unconstitutional. Another judge says it's not, like in the aspect of Section 40 of the County Government Act. So, what should the legislature say? Should they follow the one who says it's unconstitutional, or should they follow the one which says it is constitutional? So there is also need to come up with areas with the improvement on this declaration of unconstitutionality. It is true this is a conflict. It's not an overreach. I will not call it as an overreach. It's a responsibility, because the judiciary is there to interpret the law. But there is that need of finality, so that actually when we say this section of the law is unconstitutional, in my view, there should be an automatic picking of that declaration by another superior court, so that it can consistently be held to be so. So that I, as a single judge, does not say that a section of the law is unconstitutional, it's left like that, parties refuse to comply with that, yet maybe on appeal it would have been overturned. So there is it's becoming a bit confusing, and also the Parliament might wish that why can't this aspect be cascaded to another court, so that there is that finality that actually this is unconstitutional. It's true, we can say there should be finality in litigation, but when it comes to declaring law which has been passed by over 200 legislators, I sit there as a single judge. It's true, I'm the expert in interpretation. I say so. Maybe three wise men would rule otherwise. There is need to manage this aspect.
Okay. Now, coming to that issue that you've just mentioned, where you have different judges coming to different conclusions, or even sometimes, and this is something that I've seen as a practitioner, for instance, in a employment court, where you find a decision has been made by a court of appeal clarifying a position, but still the employment court goes ahead and goes contrary to it. Now, I wonder, as a Chief Justice, in as much as it is not your responsibility to interfere with the decisional independence of the judges, but for purpose of enhancing kind of uniformity, or where this certainty, as is being said time and again, I don't know what steps you would take as the leader of the institution to guide that that process of creating certainty, where different judges are not making different decisions over the same issue, or Court of Appeal has pronounced itself, then you find judges are going against it, or Supreme Court has pronounced itself, then others are going again. I do not know what steps you take. Clear steps.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. As the head of the judiciary, because these things come to the limelight, they are not secret. We normally have the yearly colloquium where we discuss emerging jurisprudence. We invite one of us to discuss. So, first and foremost, to disobey what the Supreme Court has said, yet the law requires that all superior courts be bound by the decision of the Supreme Court, will be now to dwell on, cannot say impunity, but dwelling on something else. Equally, to disobey what the Court of Appeal has said as a High Court judge, and to say, these judges, let them say what they said, let me continue saying what I've been saying, would also be to ignore the issue of judicial precedents and the hierarchy of courts. Because why did this party appeal to the Court of Appeal? So to solve these problems, it needs, first and foremost, to bring together, like if we can have a colloquium of the Employment and Labor Relation Court, and tell them that you are creating confusion in the jurisprudence relating to this aspect of the law, and we deliberate on it and tell them that the Court of Appeal has guided you, so can you follow what the Court of Appeal is saying? Because it's not a matter of you can have your own personal views, but it is a requirement that you respect a higher court. So I would be engaging the individual courts and all the judicial officers, because the magistrates are ready to embrace what the High Court has said. Why can't the High Court and courts of equal status embrace what the Court of Appeal has said? And why can't the Court of Appeal embrace what the Supreme Court has said? So I would, we will now come, we can even have a catalogue of conflict areas. There are even conflicts in the Court of Appeal. I've seen, as I was in Meru, there is the issue of, under the Wildlife Act, if you are attacked by a buffalo, that act provides for a system where you start from a committee at the district level, but that process is not working, so people are going directly to the court. And there is a decision by the Court of Appeal saying you should start from that lower court, lower tribunal or committee, and there is another decision saying you can go directly to court. So these are issues of conflict, of application of the law, and they can only be harmonized. Maybe, like if it was a 3-judge bench of the Court of Appeal, if another issue arises, I would discuss with the president of that court to have a 5-judge bench, which can be seen to be more balanced and more pronounced, and rectify the situation. So I do agree that those instances are there, and it is for the judiciary itself and not somebody from outside to sort this one out.
Now, let us come now to your papers themselves, your qualifications. I saw you have an MBA. Now, tell me, and there's a reason why that will come out from my subsequent questions. How do you think this qualification would be useful in the institution if you are to become the chief justice?
Okay, I will answer that from my personal perspective. I took that MBA 1 year after I joined the NSSF. And I could see that we are dealing with finances, we are dealing with HR, we are dealing with ICT, and I have come with a background of the law. You sit in an investment committee where people are talking, investing in shares, investing in real estate, and you are there. All what you can say is you are giving legal advice. So the MBA becomes handy when it comes to dealing with issues to do with HR. It becomes handy to understand, because as the CEO of the judiciary, you will be receiving a lot of data, a lot of information from PMMU. It helps when you have to analyze the data. Like if I receive the DCRT of Commissioner Majanja, what has he been doing for the last 1 month? MBA enables you to analyze his data, how many rulings, how many judgments, how many witnesses have been heard. That is the simplistic aspect of it. MBA also gives you decision-making processes and how to make your decision, analytical aspect of your work area. So it is a crisp-cutting. Even the issue I've been asked, how will you bring together these judges and remove perception? Under the human resource management, things have to grind the way justice grinds slowly. You can accelerate, but if you are to move faster, you will break. Because if you become dictatorial, people will rebel against you. So the tenets of leadership are there under MBA, and I think it is a worthy cause for we lawyers to take, so that you know how to deal with people, you know how to deal with financial situations. I know as lawyers we do accounting at the law school, but that is basic.
Okay. Now with that MBA, I want to come now to the real issues that lawyers particularly have to encounter every single day in the judiciary. Let me start with the issue of automation, the digital platform that the judiciary is using. Now, I don't know what is your view regarding it, because whereas there's Zoom hearings, there could be Microsoft Teams hearings, and all that. But when it comes to interacting with the system, for many lawyers, it goes beyond that. There's the e-filing, for instance, which is difficult. There are always, every single day I can tell you that the complaints I receive are so many. I'm always, exchanging those complaints with the institution of the judiciary on behalf of lawyers. They can't even sometimes print a receipt. They can't be able to file their documents. The system is down, and of course, the hearing is not just the hearing online, between the judge or magistrate and the lawyer. There's also the aspect of documentation, and it seems not to be working. So I do not know what is your experience regarding the complaints in that aspect, and what you do to truly digitize the institution, and not to equate online hearings with actual digitization of the systems within the institution. What steps would you take using your MBA knowledge?
Okay, I've had the same challenges because as you sit in court, you can't hear the lawyer on the other side. I will not blame this on the ICT staff. ICT is an expensive affair. I've interacted with that department because I'm somebody who wants to know why is the appeal not being heard, why at 10 after we start from 9 the systems go down, and they also have their answers to that. First and foremost, I think they are saying our capacity, what do you call them, is still very small. There is need. When we were in Mombasa for a colloquium, we were taken through all this. They want to expand the capacity of the data center so that it can work, many users can punch in and it works. So that is a problem. Another problem is staffing. I've been told, and I've taken the personal initiative, that what we are using is homegrown. We didn't go to the market to buy a software which can handle our work. It has been developed from within by 4 developers. And these 4 developers, whenever there is the time down where there are difficulties, they have to be the same people who should go to firefight. They're saying they're not enough. And we need to invest in this so that we can have an expanded band. I think that's the word. The band is not big enough to accommodate many users at the same time. When every judge is there from 9 to midday, there is a lot of interruptions up and down. So the problem is known, and the ICT people are working on it, but there is need for the judiciary to recruit more ICT staff and expand the bandwidth. It's expensive because I've talked to them. They have that little knowledge. I can't say I'm an ICT expert, but they're saying even we are working at the mercy of international companies like Google, because when you have to go to Safaricom to allow you to use their bandwidth, you will be charged a lot of money. So that's why even the licenses, after every year, our licenses expire because we are using the ones given freely by companies like Google so that we can minimize on cost. So there is need to deal with this problem of ICT, because it is, in fact, it has changed the work format. Mentions, why do you have to drive from city center to Milimani to mention a matter? It can be mentioned online. An appeal where parties have filed submissions and they want to highlight. Why do I need them in court? So there is that need so that the virtual hearings can be real and compared to physical hearings, mainly in those aspects of the law where we can easily say an appeal can be heard 20 minutes each. I will hear you, I have your submissions, and the system should remain constant until each advocate completes his submissions. So going back to the MBA, when you do MBA, I think you also do the information management systems, and you don't become an ICT expert, but it exposes you to how ICT can be harnessed to deliver justice.
Yeah. Now, for you as a judge, and I'm sure you've also interacted with your colleagues, do you have that ease of access and use of the system? Say, like if you want to access and get documents that have been filed easily, is it, is it a challenge, or is it something that you're doing very easily?
Okay, for now it's still a challenge, because I would sit in court and an advocate filed an affidavit of service yesterday, and you peruse, it's not there. And the court assistant will tell you, I have gone through the system and it has not appeared. So there are delays. So it is still a challenge. It's not easy. I filed submissions, they were filed 3 days before, but those submissions have not appeared in the portal. Or a lawyer wants to pay for a plaint, but the system is not picking. So it's not me alone. Everybody is complaining, but this thing became abrupt. I can't blame the staff. It became, nobody knew COVID will come in, so we have now to accelerate the system. It seems we ran against our time and enabled the lawyers to work, when it was not yet ripe for that. So I can't blame them. They are really improving, but we can say so far it has assisted.
Yeah, so if you became now the Chief Justice, what are the key steps that you take to resolve some of these issues that cannot wait for too long, because we need to be up and running, because they complain every single day regarding the user, the ability to interact with the system efficiently, where now what we thought is a solution is also becoming a problem in itself, without of course abandoning, because we can't go back. I don't know what steps you would take as the leader of the institution.
Okay. When you are asked to talk as the CJ, sometimes anyway, if I become the leader of this institution, ICT is already there. What is needed is to improve on it. So improving needs resources. There are certain aspects. I think that we have a whole ministry of ICT. I don't know whether I've not been working from inside, but from the little information I have, is that the ICT department and the judiciary management is engaging the Ministry of ICT. There is what they are calling the Ajira program, which they are trying to work with, so that the proceedings, they are recorded, and the Ajira program, they are given to the ICT ministry, and produce the transcript. They have parameters so that you don't lose confidentiality. But to go back to this core issue of logging in of users and e-filing, it was launched very recently. We should not expect magic within this short time. So as the head of the judiciary, I would sit down with the ICT department, get down the requirements to improve on this. I know some of the requirements is that they are shortchanged. In fact, one of them told me that to procure an ICT thing takes a long time. The procurement process is very long, and the judiciary needs to ring-fence the money which has been budgeted for ICT, because by the time the procurement comes through, this money has been used by other departments, because we are thin in resources. So they are saying it becomes a problem, and if you wait for next year, maybe that technology has changed. Now we have a new type of machine, which has to be, the one you are buying has become obsolete or needs improvement. So as the head of the judiciary, maybe I will ensure that whatever is budgeted for ICT, because it's becoming an important enabler of justice, is used within the ICT. I would even rather put off the construction of a court and expand on what ICT can do, so that it's not becoming, as we said, it was to enable us access justice, but now it's limiting to some extent. We want to reach where we wanted to go.
Yeah, because as you said, there's a significant number of lawyers who feel that the system actually is now becoming an impediment to access to justice. Now, burden of proof, because it's one thing to say that you'd be able to do all that in terms of providing leadership in that. Now, what is it that in your experience, when you look back at your background, because again I've checked right from when you're an advocate to NSF and all that, what is it in your background would make us believe that you've acquired these skills where you can be able to ensure that you're able to oversee the implementation of an efficient digital platform that serves the institution and, of course, the public at large?
I believe I should restrict myself to digitization, not to the wider aspect of the leadership.
Yeah, the digitization.
Okay, from my background, when you are a practitioner, our times there wasn't a lot of digitization. You have your computer in the office, and you use it to produce your pleadings and do your internal office management. I interacted with this ICT when I was at NSSF, and it's expensive. You have to buy systems which will enable each branch to log in and see the processes of the institution, working on the benefits of the retirees. Coming to the judiciary now, we have talked about ICT for long, to the extent that now it is becoming monotonous. ICT. The JTF, one of the pillars is ICT. They did their best, acquired, established the ICT department or directorate. SJT has come up with digitization as one of the pillars of SJT. So the totality, the burden of proof, which is the answer, is I know how ICT can improve the workplace. I know for sure it can. And the only solution to this is to talk to these people who are working on it. I remember at NSSF would spend millions, but when the instrument is bought, it doesn't work. You would go back to buy another one. So it can be an exercise in futility if you get it wrong. The beauty with the judiciary is it is homegrown, and but we need to buy certain aspect of these ICT instruments and cooperate with the ministry, and we will be there. I don't have to say that 100% when you take me, if you take me as the CJ, I will make sure that ICT will work in 100 days. You will be able to not to see these ups and downs. It boils down to the same thing. You have to make people agree that they are here to serve the wananchi, and they should do their best and improve on what is existing now.
Okay, I have 3 more questions. One, now you mentioned about the issue of backlog and sometimes delays in writing of judgments and all that, and I want to tie this to the issue of leadership generally. And you actually even said that the Chief Justice Emeritus did even write at one time a letter to all the judges telling them that, you know, you've to deliver judgments within this time. And many of them still didn't. Now, I'm just wondering, what is it that you do as a Chief Justice to make sure that when you do a communication, it is not in vain? It is a communication that will be followed through to, you know, with a view to ensuring that those judgments are indeed delivered. And if they are not delivered, that there are also consequences. Because again, if it's just an idle threat or a communication that is no follow-up or there is no implementation in terms of ensuring it's, you know, it's indeed followed to the letter, it's, you know, it's of no value. Now, what is it that you do as a Chief Justice to ensure that when there's a communication, when there's a directive, alive also to the fact that you're dealing with people who have security of tenure, they have their rights, but at the end of the day, again, there's the delivery of justice expeditiously?
My long-held principle is that you should justify the salary you get. You cannot be in this institution idling around, doing the bare minimum, and expect to get the salary from the taxpayers. So when it comes to that, the CJ Emeritus was very emphatic on this. He didn't issue mere demands and went to sleep. He would even follow it up for those who have not complied. He would follow it up, and he will even be calling them. Have you complied with this? I remember the office of the DCJ, where the ombudsperson is currently entrenched, would make a demand that can you comply with the letter by the CJ. So we'll put everybody on his toes when it comes to this issue of delayed judgments, when it comes to this issue of backlog, because backlog creates perception of corruption. That is for sure. Even you, if you have a case in court for 10 years and it's not determined, you might think that you have to go and bribe your way at the registry for you to get a hearing date. Commissioner Warsame dealt with the delays even in getting hearing date. But I can say we have improved. When we used to practice, by March the diary for the year is closed. You wait for January. But now in many courts you can get hearing dates for July, you can get hearing dates for magistrate courts for August, even for June. So as the head of judiciary, it will not be a matter of standing on top of room 17 as commissioners referred it to, issuing demands that you have to comply and waiting for compliance, which is not forthcoming. I will be, maybe the main answer to this will be the PMMU, because that DCRT PMMU instrument can flash whoever is working and whoever is not working. The systems now can show how many judgments have you delivered, how many witnesses have you had this week. It can. So as the head of the judiciary, I will rely on this directorate that give me data for each and everybody, and it should be actual data, no raw data. I know sometimes you send the data and the station says you have given us the wrong information. Physically go there, count the files which the judge has delivered, judgments or rulings, count the backlog, and we are rated every year. They go around and assess what has been done. So I'll emphasize on that. And for those maybe who might be falling, you have a roundtable discussion with them. You are right, these are people with security of tenure, but security of tenure also calls upon responsibility. It's not a security of tenure in vain, whereby you come and say, I'm not doing anything, I'm not being supervised, I'm the presiding judge of the Nyeri court, I don't want anybody to ask me what I've done. You have to be responsible, and that is part of the code of conduct for the judiciary. You have to be responsible and deliver as expected.
You know, Honorable, my Lord, I'm asking this because these are some of the matters we are dealing with also at the JSC, where it has gone through that process you're indicating, but it reaches a point whereby the complainants now come directly to JSC. It becomes a complaint. So I'm still wondering that beyond the round table discussions, how do you as the Chief Justice ensure that indeed that it doesn't reach a level where JSC now has to deal with it as a complaint when it could probably also be sorted out administratively?
Yeah, there are many ways we can deal. For instance, let's take an example maybe of a judicial officer who is performing below the average. A human resource will require that first and foremost you know his problems. Is it naturally an issue of laziness and refusal to work, or maybe this judicial officer has some social problems at home? Another issue is to discuss with the judicial officer for him to know or her to know that actually you are underperforming and you came here on the promise that you want this job because it's you who applied to get this job, and comparatively, because you are not working alone, there are 100 of you and the 5 of you seems to be working below average. I would also look at the aspect of maybe what is your specialty. Maybe you have problems dealing with the criminal law and you like to deal with family matters where the turnover, you can sign grants and hear objection proceedings and refer matters to mediation. So it's an all-rounder, but the bottom line is we want to uplift this judicial officer to the same level as the others. And what do we do if it becomes impossible, even with that stick? you are trying to propel the officer to those levels, but still you are not getting the results. I believe the question leads to that. What do you do? I think that's why we have the JSC here. The CJ does not have the mandate to send anybody home, but the law comes in and say you can be retired in public interest, because now you cannot perform. You are sick. You have told us you are sick. Maybe you take early retirement. Maybe because it can be a disciplinary issue. Because disciplinary doesn't mean the code of conduct is that you have to work. The idea of the code of conduct is that you have to work. That's why within the certain parameters, and if you are not fulfilling your obligations, then when do you pay you? JSC is paying your salary and you are not working. I don't think it can be a hopeless case where we are saying we cannot deal with this officer. I think we can deal with those situation administratively, and if it is not working, we can escalate it to the JSC.
Thank you. Now, my final question. The key stakeholders in your understanding of the judiciary, if you could give me an indication of the 3 key stakeholders, and if possible in the order ranking in priority, and the reasons why you'd rank it that way, the stakeholders of the judiciary, you as the Chief Justice, that you would focus on in making sure that you satisfy them.
There are many, and to name 3 will just be to a tip in the ocean. But the key stakeholders is the public, because that's where we derive our authority from. So the members of the public are our main stakeholder, although this will encompass everybody. But as we sit as judiciary, we should know that we have been given this role by this public, who are the taxpayers. So I will give that as the number 1. We are here to deliver justice to all, and all means the public. We have the judiciary itself has a stake in the judiciary, and by the judiciary I mean the staff, JSC. We are stakeholder by our own right, because we are here, we are working, we are earning. So the interest of the staff, the interest of the institution is also another component of being a stakeholder. The litigants who can come individually and through their appointed advocates, like the LSK, this is another stakeholder component, because it's a business also. It's a service industry. You serve the wananchi. They come to get justice from us. So the litigants are stakeholders. They want their cases to be heard, whether they have lawyers or not. They are stakeholders. We have the DPP is a stakeholder in the judiciary. He wants, when he charges somebody, his case, he wants it to be prosecuted. He's a stakeholder. The AG is a stakeholder on his own right. If the government has a complaint or has been sued, they want that case to be heard fairly, impartially, and as quickly as possible. So the list is endless. The prisons are stakeholders. They want us to hear the criminal cases and finalize them, instead of having people put on the vehicles every day, brought to court, brought back to the prison. They are stakeholders. So the list is as long as I can say. The NGOs, they are stakeholders. There are people who are fighting for others' rights, as enshrined in the Constitution. The NGOs dealing with human rights, they are stakeholders in their own right. The business people. Why did we create the commercial court? The idea was to facilitate business disputes and hear them as fast as we can. But the commercial court has become just like any other civil court. Cases are taken there. They take as long as they can. So even that aspect of having a commercial court as to speedily hear these cases has been lost. So the businessmen involving banks, companies of whatever nature, they have a stake in the judiciary.
So how has your experience, your background experience, helped you in interacting with all these key stakeholders when you go back to when you became an advocate? And that's my last question, and I thank you and I wish you well.
As I've said, the lawyers are a stakeholder. So I was a stakeholder in the judiciary, and I could see the many problems. As I've said, during our time, there was a call-over, monthly call-over. You go there, all of you in Court 1, and you allocated only 2 cases that month out of your 100 cases in the High Court. So my background knows that what the lawyer wants, whatever decision you make, whether he wins or not, he wants his case to be heard. So if it cannot also be heard, even hearing it is a problem, then that stakeholder has a problem. Another stakeholder I've interacted as a company secretary. If an institution has a case before the court, you as a company secretary, every time you go to the boardroom or the legal committee, they will ask you, how far has this case gone? If you give the same report today, after 4 months or 6 months, you go there, the case has been fixed for hearing. If you go there, it was adjourned to next year. So it defeats logic, and even it makes work impossible for some of these officers in the legal fraternity. Even the lawyer now, he can't get a hearing date. And if he gets it, the court is not sitting. So that experience gives me the background to know some of these pitfalls we may be having and how to fix them. So those are just but a few. Now, coming from within, I can see the numbers. Commissioner Warsame is right. Why is it that despite the increase of the numbers, still the work seems to be balancing? But the numbers of cases also have gone up. The statistics are there. Each year what is filed is more than what was filed last year. So my background gives me that that knowledge of what an advocate feels as a stakeholder when he is told that these cases have been removed from the cause list without any explanation. They have been removed. And you have been waiting for 2 months to get it heard, but a day before you are told it has been removed from the cause list. There are good reasons. The cause list is 40 cases, but how did we reach there if we have electronic fixing of cases? Why can't we cap it, and when it comes for hearing, it is heard? So I know what the stakeholders are suffering, and I know how much we have done to satisfy them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Jero and Honorable Judge. I think to manage time, I would request
Hey, now that's hitting the right notes. When life gets boring, we bring out our play. You see, playfulness is in our DNA. It's in the way we move and laugh. It's in the way we walk, the way we rock, and how we just don't stop. You feel me? We add color to everything, to every day and every dish, because the world needs our crazy. We're the different flavors that make life more exciting. We're the ones who add color to every moment. Fanta, color every moment.
As we grew up, me and my cousin realized that there was a big problem with space. Land sizes are shrinking in Kenya. On a 2x2 space with hydroponics, you can grow up to 256 plants. If it's herbs, you can go all the way to 512 herbs.
The digital economy is quickly becoming the mainstay of development in Africa, and governments are seeing fertile grounds to levy different forms of taxes. We analyze the impact of these taxes on your income if you make money off the internet.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Maritime Tips, brought to you by Kenya Maritime Authority. About Kenya Maritime Authority. The Kenya Maritime Authority, KMA, ensures maritime safety and security, promotes prevention of marine pollution, coordinates maritime search and rescue for ships and vessels in distress at sea, promotes maritime education and training, creates an enabling environment for shipping and maritime trade. Kenya Maritime Authority, for safe and efficient water transport. Learn more about shipping, the blue economy, and maritime activities by visiting us at www.kma.go.ke or Facebook Kenya Maritime Authority, Twitter at KMA Kenya, or YouTube Kenya Maritime Authority.
No matter what's going on in the world, there's one place you can go to stay up to date with the latest global news. The BBC News World Service app helps you go behind the headlines and make sense of what's going on around the world. And with a call to listen button, you can listen to live radio without using your data. Download the BBC News World Service app and start listening today.
Africanacity is not just a word, it is part of who we are. And our commitment to working with you to find a way to get things done. We love Africanacity. We are one with you.
Just take your time, Honorable Judge.
It's good you have asked some of these questions. Okay, I know what people have to be prosecuted. That is the mandate of the DPP. But as you sit as a judicial officer, you should be able to sift out what has been brought for serving other purposes and what has been genuinely brought as a court case. And I'll give an example, like granting bail. I can't understand why a court will take a whole month to grant bail or deny bail. You'd rather even deny so that this party can go to another court. But if you take two weeks, the spirit of the Constitution is that nobody should stay indoors. I agree, there are those cases with compelling reasons. If we have people charged with terrorism, you can't just grant them bail. There are heinous offenses which are committed, you cannot grant bail. But sometimes I can't understand why is somebody charged with a corruption offense? He is a whole governor. Can he run away, surely? And if he will, are we not having any ways of bringing him back? And the case the bail application takes a whole month. Maybe the governor is in custody. That is, it's not that because a governor is maybe well paid and whatever. Even the simple cases, why should somebody charged with assault stay indoors for 1 week, yet the magistrate is grumbling with whether to grant or not to grant bail? So as you have said, it's the wearer of the shoe. I've gone through this process. I have to appreciate that mine cannot be said to be a bad example of the judiciary because the case was heard within 1 year. Thanks to the magistrate, she was very industrious to hear us. It was a corruption case which the law allows to be heard on day-to-day basis. But those who bring you to court will develop cold feet, and that's why I was saying we have a few magistrates in Nairobi hearing these cases, and they're overwhelmed. It's not that they're lazy, they're hard-working magistrates. But why can't the leadership of the judiciary decentralize these cases so that we know if you are charged with a corruption case, you are from coast. The idea is if you are from Mombasa, your supporters will come to Mombasa court and start singing, we take you to Lamu or we take you to Garsen, and the case is heard as fast as... I'm sure that magistrate will be having that one single case with 40 witnesses. Within 1 year, that case can be heard. It's not that the system is bad, but there are ways of perfecting it. And to answer your question, maybe I'm taking longer than expected, but I have this experience. I know where the judiciary can improve. I know the judiciary is not the only player in this system, because if you are within, you can see this person has just been charged to facilitate maybe the riots, somebody was killed, and they had to arrest somebody and bring him to court so that the situation can calm down. So as a judicial officer, you should know why, or if maybe you release this person out of bond, you will be killed. So there should be that aspect of knowing what to do with a certain aspect of some of these cases. When I was practicing, the issue of delays in the judiciary, you can't get a hearing date. The judges were few. They were working, but still the numbers were overwhelming. So, Commissioner, I can look this institution from either ways. I can look at the judiciary from the eyes of a lawyer. I can look at this judiciary from the eyes of the stakeholder of business people or business institutions like NSSF, where I was, where you have cases which are never ending. They are never ending. Your lawyers are raising fee notes every time they mention cases. I can look at this institution from within, having stayed here for 12 good years.
Thank you very much, Judge, for that response. My next question will take us back to the Martin Charo case that you already you've been asked about from a different perspective, though. Often when a judicial officer is working or handling a case, you find yourself in a situation where the law kind of conflicts with your personal views or your personal sentiments on the subject at hand. I'm looking at the Martin Charo case. I've read the decision, and one gets the impression that in that judgment you are dealing with several aspects of our sexual offences law that have generated a lot of debate. The age of consent, the minimum sentences, the defense of reasonable belief.
So the age of consent to me is not an issue, but my issue is also the minimum sentences, because as a judicial officer, having seen an 18-year, until recently, an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old boy with a 17-year-old girl, the boy goes to prison. Until recently, when I think one of the judges said they all could not consent and acquitted them. So this minimum sentence to me is a problem, because it ties the hands of the judicial officers and it is contrary to the aspect of independence of the judiciary. Because a judicial officer is the one who is hearing this case, because compare the Martin Charo, assuming I was wrong and I was to convict. Can you compare Martin Charo with somebody who violently pulls a young girl to the bush and defiles? Yet all of them gets the same sentence. In the case of Martin Charo, these are people who have been dating. Even they went to the parents' home and slept there for 3 days. Even the brothers knew where their sister was. So can you say because the law provides minimum sentence, everybody should suffer the same fate irrespective of the circumstances of the case? I don't think so. So the minimum sentence should... Murwatetu case has come up with the aspect of murder, but I can see it being applied across all other cases. Reasonable belief that the minor was...
allow me to interject, please, because I've been made aware of the time. What I wanted to get from you is in instances where you find your personal views are conflicting with the law. You've already given us your perspective concerning the minimum sentences. You've given us your perspective concerning the fact that the law does not necessarily take care of the scenarios that you're talking about, the scenario where someone has violently attacked a child and sexually violated them, or where a child is cooperating, which in my view covers the Romeo and Juliet scenario. So what I'm asking basically is, when you find that there's conflict between what you feel or what the beliefs you hold as a person and the law, how do you treat that scenario? Thank you, Judge.
Okay. I don't think by writing the judgment I was enhancing my personal feelings. There are no personal feelings there. All what I'm saying is the law should serve the society, and that normative aspect, positivism of applying the law the way it is, I'm not in favor of that. What I'm saying is the law should serve the public, and it's not that I'm imposing my personal views that it's my interpretation of the law. It might be taken that by interpreting the law, it's skewed towards my personal views, but to me, it's just my honest interpretation of the law that under Section 8.5 and 8.6, a judicial officer should look at the circumstances of the case. The word circumstances is there in those provisions. Look at the circumstances of the case. Do they exhibit an aspect of defilement, or they exhibit something else? And since the law does not give you the leeway to say, although there was an aspect of, you can call it even defilement, but the circumstances are different, I'm imposing 2 years, people will say the law does not provide for 2 years, or are putting this person on probation. Then you have to interpret it wholly and see, this was not defilement.
Thank you very much, Judge. My next question is, do you think that the consequences of a decision should be of concern to a judge when a judge is handling a matter?
When you're handling a matter, you are dealing with a specific problem there and then. Definitely, each judgment has consequences, but it all depends on how you are looking at these consequences. If you are too timid, I can sit there as a judge. Whatever appeal come, I dismiss because the magistrate did good work, and I will not be in the limelight. So, if you are consequences-oriented judicial officer, you have no place in this judiciary. The consequences should guide you to effect the law so that the society will be able to know what aspects of the law is. So consequences, you can look at them, but it's not that maybe people can say, Saidi wrote that judgment without taking into consideration that women might think that he is against them. No. one aspect of this role of a judicial officer, I don't know whether it's impartiality or propriety, is the capacity to be independent and make your decision as per the facts and as per your interpretation of the law. The consequences, whether they will be hue and cry, they can be cured by other people. If the matter go on appeal, let them even dress you down. But to me, this aspect of independence, of making your decision, it's inbuilt. In fact, I have no issue sleeping over a file for like a week. I don't know what else. If I read your file, I look at it. It's not that I hastily make a decision, but with the experience, you just make your decision. The consequences can be positive, they can be negative. But if you want to be popular, you are seated there, just sitting on the fence, not making decisions which may have negative impact on you, then I don't know. But to me, the negative consequences are also admissible. So it's true you can look at the consequences, but does it shape are you saying something which is contrary to the society? We can't sit here and say young girls and boys are not engaging in this thing. The COVID problem, we have seen many girls sitting for KCPE when they have just delivered. It's a social problem. So me, I am not saying that I don't know the society. I know the society. And I'll give you an example. A lady appeared before me in Malindi with a kid. She's a witness. And she was 17. I looked at her, she looked younger. So I was wondering whether to do the voidaya or not, but I see she has a child. So I asked her, how old are you? She said, I'm 17. It was a murder case. I think a relative had been murdered. So how did you get the child? She told me, this is my second born. When did she get the firstborn? So this is the practicality of the law. So people can sit and give you an unnecessary award, but this is the reality. Go there on the ground. You have seen it. You convict a 20-year-old boy, the 17-year-old girl is crying, where are you taking my husband? These are the problem of the society. Those are the consequences. Now, do you look at the law and say, go to jail, or do you look at this girl who will turn 18 next year and be free to get married? And maybe they have a child. What do you do with this child? Who will take care of the child? I can give as many examples. You're taking care of time. In Marsabit, a young girl who was in Form 3, she was defiled by a boda. They had a child. The family knows. Even they got married. One day, the father goes to the child, to the boda to ask for money for milk. The girl is in school. This boda is a young man, he's playing pool. And he tells him, Mzee ngoja nimalize hii game. This is his father-in-law. The Mzee gets annoyed, goes to take his daughter from school straight to DPP's office. He's charged and is convicted. He comes before you. 6 months down the line, the reality has dawned on them. The girl is not in school. The child is not getting support. As a judicial officer, they go to the DPP now to plead that can we reverse this thing? We didn't know it will go to this because the girl was around 17 and a half. So we are dealing with the actual problems on the ground. We are not dealing with the law in abstract, that you see penetration, you see age, you convict. No. I can give you as many examples as possible. The law in practice.
Thank you, Judge. Your point is made, and the examples suffice. Maybe if I can ask you a last question, now that I've been told to cluster all my areas together, not everyone is good at everything. We all have our weaknesses. Can you identify one weakness that you have, Judge, and what you have done to try and correct it?
It's very difficult to criticize yourself, but we are human beings. We are not machines. When you are set, there you go until when you are put off. We all have our strong elements and weaknesses. I think some of the strong elements can be turned into weaknesses. Maybe one can say I'm too generous when it comes to sentencing. Having, as you have asked, having gone through the processes, and I've seen it myself. Wherever I go to a court, those in prison are very happy because they think they will get a moderate sentence from me. But I've been firm. If I look at your file and you did something not worthy of being in the public, I will deal with you. So there is that aspect of witness, of seeing somebody from a social aspect of life, that every person can be reformed. I remember when I was in Malindi, in my entire practice, I've sentenced only 2 people to death. Yet the law, even before Murwatetu came. So there is that aspect in me, believing that even the worst of a criminal can be reformed. I am not against the death penalty. It's a good sentence. At times it's worthy passing. So that can be one aspect of my weakness. Another weakness I can tell you is maybe it's a strong thing, but also another weakness. I tend to believe in what you are telling me for some time. I consider that whatever you tell me has some elements of truth, but later on I have to analyze. So I'm not a person where I can dismiss you. There are some situations where you have to dismiss somebody. The moment he opens his mouth, you know he's lying and you dismiss. But I have that weakness. I have to listen to you. So even if you are lying, you have taken the religious text, but you are lying, I will leave you to talk until the end. Although it's part of our work, but sometimes there are those who will cut you short, and then what happened, just to discourage you to know that you are not interested. Maybe it has taken me as a surprise. I didn't know that I will analyze myself. Maybe another weakness is overworking myself. I believe in finishing what comes. So that ends up in making yourself sick. It is a weakness because one should program himself and see how to manage your time. But I've learned how to do that, how to manage your time, how to balance between work and life. I think I'm now up to task.
Thank you very much, Judge. That will be all for now.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Orwade. Now I would request Commissioner Honorable Attorney General to ask both questions related to independence and also the relationship between the different arms of government. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My Lord, you touched on the aspect of judicial activism. If I may ask you this, just to tie up 1 or 2 loose ends. And I presume over the years you have formed your own thoughts and impressions on the subject. What would those thoughts be? And how do you see judicial activism shaping the future of the Supreme Court in this country?
Thank you, Commissioner. Judicial activism can be both subjective, objective. It depends on how we view it. At times, the judiciary is being accused of encroaching on other spheres of other arms of government. With regard to the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, maybe there is the view that it is taking jurisdiction which it doesn't have, in the process actively making itself a bigger and wider institution in form of jurisdiction. So in the eyes of the Supreme Court, I cannot say that there is no judicial activism, but in my own view is that at times that activism is necessary to solve a problem, because the activism is not generated within. It's the law, is the cases which are filed there, which needs interpretation, and in the process of interpretation, a court can be seen to have been doing judicial activism. But I don't think it's a wider aspect of what is happening in the courts. And I don't think we can say that the Kenyan courts are now instead of dispensing justice, exhibiting judicial activism to the detriment of their core mandate. So to answer you, Commissioner, as assuming I'm there in the Supreme Court, all what will be my concern will be to deal with the issue at hand within the parameters of the law, and not to be seen to be stepping on the toes of others in advancing judicial activism. I don't know whether I've answered you.
Thank you. But with your knowledge, my Lord, of the Supreme Court over the last 10 years, this elasticity that you're alluding to, in what instances, if you were Chief Justice and the head of that court, in what instances would you encourage your colleagues in that court to exercise this activism?
This can come in different forms. For instance, the interpretation of the Constitution, which is a core mandate. That court is supposed to interpret the Constitution to give it meaning and purpose. What did the Kenyans want when they came up with this interpretation? I think, for instance, the nullification of the presidential election, some may view it as judicial activism. But what are they supposed to do? Are cases taken there just to be dismissed? There are cases taken there to be heard and determined according to the views of the majority of that court. So if I'm to be there as the president of that court, first and foremost, as I've said, we have to look at the case at hand. Does it call for what should be our parameters in this problem? It's a constitutional interpretation, or it's a matter calling for general public interest. So if it's a matter of interpreting the Constitution, we will interpret the Constitution in line with the parameters of interpreting the Constitution. And if it is seen that it has exceeded the limits, I don't think I will say that if I go there, I will tell the judges not to interpret the Constitution in this form, but use this format, which is a bit restricted, so that we are not seen to be activists. So it's something which can be viewed from different angles. The loser of a case will always accuse you and say, this is too much. The winner will applaud you and say, hallelujah, I've won. But, and also, you have to take into consideration that any judgment can be criticized. Anybody can have his own views about what you say as a court or as an individual. So we'll try to be, but that has been happening. Every judgment has been majority decision. I've not seen a tie amongst the judges in any matter. Maybe if it is there, I've not come across it. So, Commissioner, as the president of the court, will try to enhance that collegiality and trying to work within the parameters so that all of us can be seen to be going together. But what we will decide together as a court, if it is seen as judicial activism, then that's it.
Thank you very much, Judge. Now, moving on to another aspect you have touched on. You've mentioned the word independence, certainly more than twice or thrice. What is this independence, judicial independence? What can you tell us about it?
I think we can talk about judicial independence in many aspects. The two major aspects is the independence of the institution itself. There is that perception, as we have started from the beginning, the judiciary was viewed or perceived not to have been independent. As a whole, as an institution, it was viewed as an arm of the executive. The Chief Justice was just appointed by the President. The judges were just appointed by the President. So the public generally expects the institution itself to be independent. So if judges are being appointed, Chief Justice is being appointed, there is no security of tenure, they can be fired, and the left, right, and center be told to do A, B, C, D, the institution loses its independence. And it loses the trust of the wananchi. And that it is that trust which is the core bedrock of the institution. The second aspect is the independence of the individual judicial officer. This is one of the tenets of the Bangalore Principles or the Code of Conduct as we have it. Are you independent when you are making your decision? In my experience, for the last 12 years I've been here, the institutional independence has suffered more than the independence of the judicial officers. And I can categorically say, I don't think in my 12 years there has been any interference from anybody in making my decision. There has never been. So this individual independence, it can be perceived that judges are being coerced to write. No Chief Justice has ever, I speak for myself, called to say the executive wants this decision to go this way, or call me to confide that let us massage this case to go this way. So that aspect of independence, I can say, has been preserved. So if a judge feels that he is under pressure because of the newspapers, because you are sent are present that your judgment was the worst and what not, and you feel now you have to act in such a manner, then you are only curtailing your own independence, but nobody is telling you to decide in this way. So independence is in those two forms. You as a judicial officer, you should not only be seen to be independent, but you should also practice that independence through your writings. You should talk through your judgment that I'm making this judgment honestly, impartially, and independently without any pressure from whatever source, be it the executive, be it the legislative, be it a colleague, be it a litigant, be it a family member. I'm writing this judgment with my open mind, consciously knowing what I'm doing. So independence comes in those two forms, and it's an international aspect of the judiciary. It has not only to be seen to be independent, but it has to be independent. But the first aspect has several factors. Because you are the judiciary, you don't have finances, you have to beg for the finances. There is no set parameters that you'll get this. You can even be allocated those funds and they are slashed. So are you independent? So those are the parameters of independence. You can be independent as an independent judge, but as an institution, that perception is still not there because of the workings of the entire system of government.
Thank you, my lord. Now you've summarized a few of the challenges. How would you address them? That perception of the absence of judicial independence in the institution. You now take office. How do you address those challenges you've just alluded to?
Thank you, Commissioner. These are challenges of the judiciary. The institution sometimes does not have the resources to do what it plans to do. What do you do as the Chief Justice? The only solution is you cannot say I'll generate my own resources or I will deal with this perception of independence.
I don't want to interrupt you, my lord, but with respect, you don't need resources. Earlier on in your answers regarding the judges who have not been sworn in, you said you would seek out the president. Yes? If, for instance, your funds are not facilitated, what would you do in practical terms as a Chief Justice?
Thank you. You have come in that you don't need resources in some of these problems. That's correct. Some of these problems calls upon your leadership style. Do you make noise and say the judiciary is being frustrated? Do you negotiate, but at the same time not to be seen to become subservient to another arm of government? So the solution for this is negotiation, talking to the other arms of government, trying to make them understand what importance the judiciary, what role the judiciary plays. They know, but maybe because I don't know some of those the reasons, like giving this example, I don't know the reasons. So I don't need resources to go and ask why haven't these judges been sworn in. All what it needs is the effort. And it's not that I can say within a week I might get that audience. You don't know, because it needs that patience and negotiation at the same time, at the back of your mind, taking into account that you have to be independent. And if a solution is brought in which compromises the independence of the judiciary in whatever form, you'll know how to to handle it, because we cannot be an institution where you can say we are standing on top of Mount Everest alone, another institution is standing at Mount Kenya alone. We are serving the same Wanjiku, and the paramount issue is how do we serve the Wananchi. So to go back to your question, how am I going to sort out this issue of independence and the challenges of resources? I will negotiate. I'll go back to the drawing table, see how we went wrong, be told where the judiciary went wrong, either accept if actually we went wrong, or explain our position, and try to pull those who are affecting the workings of the judiciary into what ought to be, so, and make them understand also. Sometimes it's done because of lack of the nitty-gritty understanding of the institution. But when you are not going there to bow down and go down your knees and say, no, you are going there to negotiate as an equal partner in this government.
Thank you. And how would you relate judicial independence to judicial accountability?
Judicial independence comes with accountability. We are there as independent judicial officers, as an independent institution, but we are accountable to the people. This runs through the whole aspects of our work. Are we delivering judgments? Are we hearing the cases? Are we serving, in short, are we serving the people? So accountability is another aspect of independence. You have to be accountable to whoever you are serving as an institution. A company is accountable to the shareholders. They want profits by the end of the year and dividends. The judiciary is accountable to the public. They want to be seen to be independently deciding their problems, not to be seen to be under pressure to serve them under pressure and give judgments or rulings which are contrary to the expectation of the litigants, just because you have been told to do ABCD and you do it. So the short aspect of the question is independence has to take into account accountability. You don't want to say, I'm independent, I've been given this amount of resources, I will spend it the way I want. You have to account for each and every penny so that there is proper utilization of resources in form of finances and in form of human resources.
NTV Jioni, habari za kina, fasaha, tendeti na za kuaminika.
Akili, 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 akili. Let's chase the germs away. Let's chase the germs away by keeping our hands clean. And when you want to sneeze or when you want to cough, do it in your elbow. Let's practice sneezing into your elbow. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Achoo! Again. Achoo! Yay! You did it!
grew up, me and my cousin realized that there was a big problem with space. Land sizes are shrinking in Kenya. On a 2x2 space with hydroponics, you can grow up to 256 plants. If it's herbs, you can go all the way to 512 herbs.
The digital economy is quickly becoming the mainstay of development in Africa, and governments are seeing fertile grounds to levy different forms of taxes. We analyze the impact of these taxes on your income if you make money off the internet.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
The core of a successful country is anchored on the health and wellness of its people. What part do you play in all this, you ask? Well, join us every morning as we get your fitness in check from 6:30 a.m. with Eve and Peter.
1, 2, 3.
Then at 7 a.m., engage with us on the health and wellness issues that affect you.
COVID has taught us we must invest in health. No one was spared.
We are overwhelmed.
That's one of the most difficult things that I've ever experienced in my life.
Are you happily married?
Being happy is different for everyone.
Najaribu kuwaeleza about health education na healthy practices.
Ona hii? Sasa hii nini? Octopus. Wanasema supu yake inasaidia wanaume.
Let's make your world a healthier one every morning, only on NTV.
After a year full of uncertainty, Kenya's leaders of tomorrow will soon sit for their KCPE and KCSE national exams. Join the Daily Nation team in wishing our candidates success in the Faulu na Daily Nation campaign. Log on to success.nation.co.ke from your phone and send the candidates details and a heartfelt personalized message for only 299 Kenya shillings, or include a photo of the candidate for only 999 Kenya shillings. The messages of hope will be published in the Daily Nation Junior Sport magazine every Monday and My Network magazine every Friday for the duration of the campaign. Campaign runs from 5th March till 15th April 2021. Tusimame na watoto wa Kenya na Daily Nation.
From State Farm Arena, the 2021 NBA All-Star Game.
When you're able to represent your team, your family, it's not something that I take for granted at all.
You know, who knows if I'm going to have the chance to play against them again. So enjoy the moment. I'm going to try to get a win for sure.
I just love the fact that HBCUs are being highlighted.
Each quarter is like its own game, with $150,000 going to charity and then $300,000 going to the charity of the winning team.
I ain't been this close to this ever. Nice play. Here's Curry. Oh, beautiful pass. And the Joker with the bucket. How we loose? Get the legs moving. 2-on-1. LeBron with the reverse. Here's Curry, 3.
Now, as we enter another chapter of the COVID-19 pandemic, rest assured that we aim to deliver the same level of professionalism, excellence, and integrity you have come to expect from us. We did it once before, and now we are better prepared and equipped to ensure that our future leaders get what they truly deserve, the best education. Applications can be done online via ztech.ac.ke.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex.
Protex. Good health starts here.
This is NTV.
Well, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. You're watching NTV at 1. My name is Zainab Ismail. We begin at the Supreme Court, where the vetting of candidates for the position of Chief Justice kicked off this morning at the Supreme Court in